Welcome to the Dynasty Podcast. I am your host, Corey Hahn, here as well, not always. Limited participants today. We do not have the Frenchie man. He is still crying over the loss in the Europe Cup soccer, whatever you fucking call it. Not a soccer fan. Hope to have him back soon. But we are joined today by Mr. Ben Ziegler, Jesus himself, and also Josh Buster, coming from Oklahoma. Glad to finally get you on the show, bud. It's been a little bit of a scheduling nightmare, but you're here with us now, and we're super excited about it. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Excited to, voice my opinions on a few things and kind of give you a little background of where I come from and what led me to join this league.
Yeah, awesome, man. We were talking a little bit before we press record just about how you got to become a Packers fan. I thought that was an interesting story about your uncle, and can you kind of walk through that story with the rest of the league for us?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was a little bit of an odd child. I didn't really watch cartoons or, any of that kind of stuff. I was real big into Sports Center and sports reporters on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings and things like that. Watched a lot of, live sports and whatnot. And kind of around that time, my early years, first, second, third grade, whatever years those were, the Packers were really the team. They were winning all the championships and whatnot. And Brett Favre was the stud, and all I wanted for Christmas was a Brett Favre jersey. Well, my uncle, who not to give too much background on him, he liked to mess with me when I was younger, teaching me the wrong colors and such. Well, he told me he bought me this Brett Favre jersey because the last name was spelt wrong on it, and he got it half price. And that jersey it meant a lot to me. I looked up to him a lot at that time, and it's kind of stuck with me. I've just been a Packers fan ever since.
Misprint. That thing might be valuable as hell now.
Well, no, it was spelled right. It was Favre, but
okay.
He told me that it was spelled wrong.
For a kid, it just sounds like it's spelled wrong.
Like, that doesn't look right.
Yeah. My mom's an English teacher, so I knew that wasn't how it was pronounced.
That's hilarious. So you're a Packers fan, but you live in Oklahoma. Like, what are you going?
No, he's a Favre fan. He's a Favre fan. So he's actually a Vikings fan. He's
False.
A Vikings fan because he came and played for us, right? No? Oh, okay.
You're not open
to
negotiations.
Him despite that.
Yeah, I was on a personal note. I had to root against Favre, but man, like I couldn't hate that guy. He just light us up, and I'd be like, God damn it, he's so good. I hate to say it. I might be on that kind of turning the horn on that with Aaron Rodgers too.
Yeah.
I had that with Peyton Manning. There's some guys that are just like, I'm never gonna. And you're like, they're really good. I gotta respect it.
Yeah, they're just normal guys.
And Josh, what are your thoughts on the whole Aaron Rodgers saga and what's going to happen this year? It looked to me when I watched the match when he was playing against Brady that was kind of an interesting little interview he had, and then he also backed that up when he was up in golfing in Tahoe this last week, saying he'll know more in a couple of weeks. But what's your gut feeling on that, and how is it going to change your outlook for the season?
He plays. I'm fairly confident. The whole time I thought he plays. I really thought he was going to be traded to Denver pre-draft. That was kind of what I expected to happen. So I bought Judy heavy and, Albert O and the guys I can get my hands on in these leagues. I went and bought, which now, he is a Packer currently. And I have a lot of shares of Tanyan and AJ Dillon and Lazard and those guys, those supporting role guys. And I really hope that he does suit up for the Packers. I understand his frustrations. I'm not an anti Aaron Rodgers guy because he voiced his opinion or any of that. I mean, hey, get your money, man. Hold out if you want to. It's your life. You got to be happy. He's the kind of guy that's going to do what makes him happy. And if retiring and hosting Jeopardy does it for him, then let's go Jordan Love.
He just seems so competitive to retire at 37. I mean, I know that seems to be kind of the pitch. I don't know if it's a money issue. It's just like, it's almost like who has a bigger wanger, and it's like really, you want to abandon ship now? Like, I haven't really got his philosophy. It seems to be kind of somewhat of a mismanagement by his people, if you will, too. But classifying it as I'm going to work on myself and just be mentally strong. Hey, who knows? That guy has he can pretty much do anything this time of year, and then come in and go to work and make any team better. So it should be
Yeah.
interesting to see how it plays out. As a Bears fan, I would not mind if we saw Jordan Love. I would definitely say that.
I don't hate Jordan Love. He's a solid talent.
Yeah,
He's just young.
It'll be interesting to see how he pans out. Anyway,
Yeah, I think Jordan Love gets a lot of flack. I mean, he's young and he's like not lighting the world on fire. So now all of a sudden it's a problem. But man, Aaron Rodgers wasn't either. He came
exactly. It's a very similar eerie situation to good old Favre and Rodgers.
I think he gets a bad rap. I think he's gonna get. I think it's better for his development if he can sit another year. If Rodgers is around. So I think that's really better for the Packers in general. I'm sure they know that too. So eventually I think they're just going to figure it out. I kind of thought that the whole time. You can't, two things. You don't want to like have him go to another team and see him have some glory and all that. Like you kind of had to deal with all backlash with Favre, even though that was his choice and everything. But I don't know. I think he stays too.
Well, as a Bears fan, I have a 4-minute rule of only being able to discuss the Packers for 4 minutes. So we're going to move on to some more interesting topics, and that's just tell us a little bit about your team name, some of the other stuff that we've talked about on the podcast. How long have you been in the leagues? What's kind of your favorite moments that you can recollect? How many other Paragon leagues do you play in? Just the quid pro quo for the introduction to the rest of the GMs.
Yeah, definitely. This is my third season in Blue Chips and any Paragon league of any kind. One night I was just thinking, man, I really like to maybe do away with team defenses in my home league, maybe do some IDP. So I sought out some leagues to maybe, dip my toes in the water and see what that was all about. And I found Paragon somehow. And I joined Blue Chips and Doppelganger that night. And the rest has just been all downhill from there for the most part. I'm in those two, TFL with Dirty Gary, which some of y'all may know him. Vinny, Vidi Vici, Divide, Go Deep. I mean, I'm in almost all of them.
Wow.
And then Game of Fantasy Thrones, League of Extraordinary GMs. I'm in both of those.
Are you in Contract Killers?
No, I'm not in that one.
Okay.
No.
I knew.
And I actually, before season, I was actually going to drop Blue Chips because I viewed it as my least likely to have any return this year. And because I'd already paid for my picks for next year, for this year, I stayed. And I'm glad I did because I don't hate how my team's turning out. I think anyways, we can get to that here in a minute. But my team name, I can give you a little history on that as well. 918 Bulldogs. 918 because that is my area code. Tulsa, Oklahoma. My co-owner for the first season, I knew Blue Chips was a little bit next level, and I needed a little help on that. So I had my friend Jason join me, who also broke off last year into his own team and then dropped because he, for one reason or another, wasn't able to keep up with it. And our elementary school mascot was the Bulldogs. So 918 Bulldogs. We went to elementary school together. My best finish has been 20th place via the power rankings on the site. That was my first year. I got 20th. And then last year I got 23rd. So definitely uphill climb there. Let's see. As far as what else was there? There was
it's just whatever you want to take it. Like I like to ask stupid questions like how does your fantasy philosophy compare to your life philosophy? But I'm a weirdo, so I mean, it really just I can already tell you're a well-spoken dude. So just go ahead and tell us what you want us to hear, basically.
Sure. Well, I'm a Packers fan and a Oklahoma City Thunder fan. I live in Tulsa. I run a car dealership. Well, I'm a sales manager for a branch of our main dealership. No kids, couple dogs. pretty
Nice.
low key, just watch a lot of sports and hang out with the girlfriend, you know. Now, as far as fantasy football and life, I mean, fantasy football, I like big running backs. I like fast receivers. So, I mean, I don't like big women, but I do like, I don't know how it goes with life. Uh, Possession tight ends with new quarterbacks are awesome. Kind of like your boy Komet. I like him.
Nice.
Uh, I'm kind of a fantasy sports junkie. I play everything: baseball, basketball, football, hockey,
Solid.
We were talking a
Premier
little
League.
bit about the cartoon
You do
thing and
Premier
as
League?
kid.
That's
Oh, I'm sorry.
aggro.
We were talking before we pressed record again about cartoons and how we spent our childhoods, and then we'll jump into the deep analysis of the Ivy League. But I think it's so true. I was very similar. I didn't watch cartoons. I was a stat taker on video games. So before they created stats and Madden and all these baseball and basketball games, like I would sit there, play a game, mark down everything in my notebook, and that kind of created my love and connection to all the players and sports in general, and then wanting to try to repeat those stats while I played. It's really kind of interesting how that can kind of build a love through video games for sports in general, and that's why I'm an advocate for my son continue to play them, just because I like to play them. But I don't think you're weird at all for that, Josh. I think you're absolutely normal.
Well, here's one. I used to take Sports Illustrated and copy down the articles. Like whenever Desmond Howard, is it Desmond Howard that had the kick return from Michigan?
Yep.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
He had a big spread. I was in third grade. I remember like it was yesterday. But I copied that thing down like 4 or 5 times. That's the kind of nerd I was.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. You're very well spoken, and I bet that helped your writing and your reading comprehension and all that stuff. I had Sports Illustrated for Kids and would look forward to getting that every week or whatever month. And I think it's all good as long as you don't become addicts like us now. I think you can, there's a justification for kids being involved in sports video games and sports in general very early. So
I
all
was
good
probably
stuff.
grinding Nintendo Power about that hard back in the day.
Nintendo Power.
You remember that magazine come out and had like strategy guides and shit for all the new
Oh
games?
man, the
Man,
Contra
I
code is all I remember is up down
Hey, who
down.
doesn't? Come on now.
Crazy stuff. All right, guys. Well, I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch as always, but we're not going to rush through this. We're going to give the Ivy League its due. Ben, I know you are starting us off with kind of the analyzation of 3 major players: Ojai, Penn State, and of course me. I had to include you in my list so you could tear me up.
And you had to say you were a major player too.
That was all
humble
ad
brag
lib.
there.
I don't believe that for a second, to be honest with you. And that'll come out in this back and forth, I'm sure. Do you need me to bring up the screen? Josh, did you find it helpful when the screen was up last time, or did anybody even use it? I know now how to filter through the screen, but I can bring that up and share my screen if you need it, Ben. Otherwise, it's all on
I
you.
don't need it. I mean, it's good to follow along with the team. I guess people can bring it up on their own when they want.
I'm just always worried about the technical difficulties of our recording and losing things. But I'm going to give it a whirl. I think I'm smart enough to be able to do this and not screw it up.
Well, if not, like I said, I can always do without it.
No,
So I went back and
I'm going to
watched-
go for it.
I went back and watched last week's the segment that had me in it just to kind of remember what you guys were saying. And I liked having it up and then the screen on the side as a person that was talking. That was fun.
All right, here we go. You are up and rolling, and I will switch
Oh, there it
teams.
is.
Ojai is on the left, Ben.
Yeah, I got you. Awesome. So, I don't want to mess around with quarterback in any of these analogies unless there's something that totally stands out. He's got a quarterback. They're all cheap. Who cares? The Browns. Good job. Now, he had the most controversial trade, right? So Ojai he took Sermon and Carter back to back. And I was 4th and 5th, I think. Regardless, at the time, it was just like a little controversial, but then he moved up and traded the Devontae Williams for Trey Sermon. And he gave up a lot of his future capital for that. And I just wanted to bring that up because that's something you're going to have to come back and look at this team, because he has a lot of picks next year, right? He has a lot of seconds, thirds all the way down. So he's pretty set, but he gave up those future firsts in order to get the Devonta Williams pick. So
Just
we
to
will-
just to
time will tell
clarify,
on that.
Ben, I don't want to cut you off, but if I remember correctly, he gave up at least another first to make the move to from Sermon to Javonte Williams. So what you're saying is we'll see if that is worth the increased price, the difference between those two players after this year.
Yeah, and I think it's going to depend a lot on his performance this year, because I think, if I remember correctly, he gave his own pick, and he's in quite a rebuilding mode right now. So he has to have a lot to work out in his favor in his roster in general, and it starts with his running backs. So I think Devonta Williams, whether or not I would agree that he's going to be that great this year, I would say he's going to be a solid starter, probably plug and play no matter what, right? I think that Michael Carter being dependent on the second running back there is a little dicey. I can't see Carlos Hyde really being a big piece of that offense. So I don't know. Running back looks young, promising for the future. I don't know what it does for him this year. Again, he traded his first round pick next year. And so sometimes I feel like if you're going to start leveraging those picks of your own next year, you need to be pretty confident you're going to make a run here. And so if we go to the wide receivers, he has Antonio Brown as the YOLO, hopefully he can get in the rhythm with Tom Brady. We'll see how that works out. And Henry Ruggs is the one he's probably needs to really step up and perform, right? Like if Ruggs doesn't become a pretty good player, he doesn't have a 2 wide receiver base and fill-ins. Like he's going to be really struggling at like scoring points from that wide receiver position. And, if we go back, I like to look at these rosters on offense in general. And if you look at, okay, you have the running backs. So he has 2 that he's probably going to start, assuming Michael Carter can get some run. If he can, he's probably stuck with Carlos Hyde and Williams. And now what you deal with is like, where are you going to get that flex player? And the answer sure isn't in the wide receivers, right? So I don't think so, unless Frank Darby really steps up as a rookie and can grab that 3rd spot and stuff like that. So I worry about his wide receivers in that sense. If Ruggs and Antonio Brown end up being really good, the 3rd guy might not matter much, but now you're dealing with a real carousel at the flex. And I think maybe in theory, he filled that in his tight end position where he has Evan Ingram and Jack Doyle, which if Jack Doyle works out, they don't trade for, Zach Ertz or anything like that. I think, Carson Wentz likes a tight end. That could be his every week starting 2 flex. But
Ben,
offense doesn't have a lot of upside, in my opinion. And that's when you're trying to win now, you always try and make sure you have these, at least a couple home run hits or some stable horses that can get you through.
Ben, do you think that he might have been better? I know he got a lot of flack for taking Carter that high in the draft, but the reports about Carter have been pretty favorable, honestly, since rookie training camps and whatnot. Do you think he would have been better served for drafting who was the best receiver in the class at 1-4 and kind of giving him more wide receiver depth?
Was it Jamar Chase at that point?
I mean, who else? I mean, he's got to be there, right? Chase has got to be there.
I think that was our argument was, you got to do Chase. I think for me, Chase is like, he's knocked in as your wide receiver and he's a guy you're going to set and forget for a long time. Carter, I've heard mixed things. I think he had a slow start. I haven't seen anything recently. So if he's doing well or they're liking him more, that's fine. He doesn't have a lot of competition up there. I believe it's funny. Now he has both the North Carolina backs. So they're either both overrated or both really good. So he might nail it there. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like I would have, just because I would have, of those, like a guy like Chase, you just know you're going to start for so many years, and it's not like you had a really depth wide receiver core where you're like, well, he doesn't need wide receivers to go running back. But again, like running backs are so hard to come by in general in history here. I'm sure that's why we always see him go so high. That's why
right.
we had
right.
Javian Hawkins at 14 or whatever the hell happened. Those things happen for those reasons. So if
So
you go to the
limited
defense-
depth on offense on a somewhat rebuilding team with some decent running backs and not a lot of draft capital next year early, right? Is that kind of the summary on offense?
Yeah, and like, okay, so I can argue about how he chose to run use his capital in the draft. You go get Doyle, at least it's on a 1-year deal. You get that cap next year. His taxi squad has guys, right? And some of them there are a lot of late picks. But if we go through his defense, you're going to see, I think he's going to need a lot of them to work out. And that's a really shitty position to be in on offense, let alone on defense. Okay. So this many D tackles is nauseating to me. I can't understand somebody having 6 fucking D tackles rostered on, like, you can only start 2. So, like, unless somehow I'm missing something and these guys are blue chip shade value, you don't see them go for a lot of money. I don't believe in rostering this many. However, it does if Jaron Reed and I think Dalvin Tomlinson are both going to be really good. So again, like his tight end, he might be able to just start those guys every week and not have to fuck with the flex, which I think he's going to have to do. Because if you go on and look at his DNs, I mean, he needs, I don't know what he needs. I mean, Smoot has to take a next step. And then like Deion Jordan doesn't have a team. Like where is he starting guys that get points here? Carlos Basham, I love him, but like, he's not going to blow it up this year. He's like a real work in progress type guy. So now we're looking at DN and you're like, okay, probably going to get a 0 from one guy most of the time. And maybe a couple points from another guy, unless he ends up taking the next step, which Smoot can. I mean, I like him as a prospect. But you go to defense, and now it's like, we got Darius Leonard, sick. Who else do we have? Jesus, it's scary, right? And I do not agree with having 4 linebackers only on your team. I think that is an incredible mistake in roster making in this league. I think that's the equivalent of having 4 wide receivers. You have to start 3. You can start 4. You have buys. It's where you should put your meat as far as like at least count of players. So now we have 6 D tackles, and then you go on and now we have 7 cornerbacks. What are you going to do with 7 fucking cornerbacks? Like he's got to make a lot of moves between now and the end of the season just to fill some roster spots. He's in a position, maybe he can give some 2-for-1s to some guys who need some spots, maybe a cornerback and a tackle can get him a linebacker, but like as stands, like it's an unnecessary amount of cornerbacks and an unnecessary amount of D tackles, in my opinion. And he's got good ones, but it's again, you only have so many roster spots, 45 roster spots to handle this. And so what are we saying?
Why would he end the auction with 4 linebackers and have $191 as well? Like that seems a little bit like a mismanagement, or is that something that can just happen if you don't get the guys you originally go after and then get stuck taking cornerbacks late?
Yeah, I think it's part mismanagement, but it's also like maybe people like to have cap. I don't have as much cap as I like to have in this league. I've done this league strapped for cap. It's really makes it harder. But you get injuries, you get cap later, so it can work out. But like for me, that $190, for example, I mean, we joke about it, but he could have Bobby Wagner on his team right now. And that's starting to say like, okay, now you have Matt Wagner, now you have Leonard, or even a couple of these other guys. Like I don't feel like he's trying to compete this year. He's going to be able to field a team. It might be kind of competitive, but it feels like this is a clear rebuilding team to me. And this is where I go to the point of how good does Javonte Williams have to be? How much better does he have to be than Sermon long-term, considering you might be in the lottery next year and might give away a first-round pick that you did for him? So that's why we really have to look at that trade next year. That's why we have to see if that pick really ended up being that valuable. I think Jason has that pick, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I don't see where the points come on a consistent basis on this team on either end of the ball. And so, I know how high he trades. He makes moves. He could have a plan. There's a lot of time to go as it stands right now, though. This is a rebuilding team and he's got some good pieces moving forward in the future, but
hey, Josh, what do you think of Tamorrion Terry as a prospect?
I didn't hate him before a couple weeks ago. I do
like him a
like
lot.
Jamie and Sherwood though down there on his taxi squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Sherwood. I mean, like I was going to say, Sherwood, he's got a way better chance than, McDuffie. I don't even know if McDuffie makes a team, to be honest, but
Maybe.
Sherwood, you know better than me. He might be a practice squad guy, but Sherwood, I agree. He's got a real line to snaps. And so, that pops up there. If he gets some good run, but still, I mean, like, again, I just pointed out a lot of holes: defensive end, linebacker, the shallow running back position, and then an uncertain wide receiver crew. So I would just say it's too much for this year.
Well, Ojai got taken to the back of the Woodhouse and got beat up a little bit there.
Sorry, Ojai,
but
I love you, man, but the team's
it's
not
been a
shaping
while.
up
We've
this
had
year.
time to prepare for this one, so Ben's coming out firing today. And we welcome you on the show at any time to insult us. We're completely cool with that. So
Yes.
anyway, we're going to move forward to Penn State. Mike Sorgan's team, obviously one of the so-called better GMs in the league, one of the more difficult guys to trade with, in my opinion, and someone that absolutely apparently took me, bet me over, and gave me a good licking too in the Gabriel Davis trade. So Ben, give us your analysis of Mike's team, Penn State and Nittany Lions.
Yeah, I mean, Mike in general, I think like his approach this year was really good. I was pretty surprised. He had a good combo of Cap and he had a lot of picks. And I like when people fill spots with picks, but he ended up getting, like, when I started analyzing his team, the best problem to have in this league is too many running backs. And he has way too many running backs. And that's a great problem in this league because these guys, all they need to do is make teams, injuries away. This is like one of the most injured positions. It really works out sometimes, So it's like you go down the line, it's like, okay, McKissick's going to be probably amazing again this year. But then after that, he doesn't have a lot of certainty. But unlike the other team, it's just like there's enough guys here. I mean, I know Kenway is going to return kicks for the Vikings. So worse, he has a kick returner there, which I've done that strategy in the wide receiver position. So we'll see. I mean, a lot can go bad in the sense. I think Stevenson felt like it was going to be probably a little more relevant than I think it's starting to feel now. It sounds like they really want to use Harris, but like he's still going to be in there. He might be a LeGarrette Blount style guy. I mean, I like it. I like having this many darts, right? If you're going to be overloaded in one position, that's a good one. If you hit on too many of them, that's a real valuable trade chip, right? If he's got 5 guys working for him, getting points in the middle of the season, he can go get somebody really good for him at another position. So that goes to the next one. In order to do that, you usually have to be a lot more shallow in another position. And that's definitely where he is at the wide receiver position. However, he's got some upside guys. I mean, I like DJ Shark this year, even though it's getting crowded there. Scary Terry is Scary Terry. He's got Michael Thomas. And then his fourth is, Washington. And now he's got, St. Brown, who I really, really like. I would have started, he'd be starting on my lineup this year. It's his 5th guy. So he
ain't better than Gabe Davis. I'll tell you that much right now.
Well, that's probably, why you could get rid of Gabe Davis. He's been able to previously get some good assets to wide receivers, and that pays off because you stack positions that you have a harder time at getting. So kudos to him for that. He's also fucking got George Kittle. So like, I'm always jealous of any person who has one of these top 3, top 4 tight ends in this league, because that's set it and forget it and never even think about it. I mean, he was hurt last year. If he stays healthy this year, it's dangerous. D tackle Chris Jones, top of the business, set him and go.
He's caught a case though, right? Isn't he? He's not in good shape with his federal lawsuit against him with the gun carrying.
Clark.
Yeah,
that's Frank Clark. Okay,
that's Frank Clark. Yeah,
my bad.
So again, D tackle, whatever, unless it's a guy like Chris Jones, you're stoked. You said it, forget it again. He got JJ Watt, DeMarcus Lawrence. There's your 2 starters. Carl Lawson, he's a rotational dude. He'll do fine in the Jets. I mean, he's shallow there. injuries can hurt, but if you have two guys that you're confident starting at D end, again, you can make it up in other spots. He has wow, I didn't even realize this. Okay, cool.
He's got 3 good defensive ends. I mean,
Yeah, Carl Larson's good, man. Like it's that D end groups. There's guys there, right? So we'll see. It's better than historically. My third DM was just like Jesus, like Murphy or some other fucking scrub. So I've done worse. I'll promise that. So he's got Willie Gay, who I really like this year and moving forward. I think they're kind of making real signals that Anthony Hitchens is going to start splitting their new draft pick, and Willie Gay's can get that 3-down banger linebacker role. So I think you're going to look at him probably have a breakout. And if he does, it's a fucking problem. It's good for him because he's probably losing Van Der Esch, being an elite guy. Van Der Esch becomes a rotational guy, but Roquan Smith, one of the best in the business. I mean, he's got Drew Tranquil. I actually kind of like to have a recovery this year. He's kind of in a do something or get the fuck off the team situation, and he's got a lot of talent. He's just been hurt. Cole Holcomb, he's going to rotate. So he's got startable guys. He's got rotational guys. So linebackers, obviously, where he'll probably end up playing, 4 guys most of the time. Cornerback, again, if you got good cornerbacks, you got good cornerbacks. Congratulations. We'll move on. He's got 3 good ones there at least. And then safety, again, man, those guys are going to play. They're going to be solid. It's good to have 4 good safeties, man. Those guys get hurt a lot and they score a lot of points, and it's good to have 3 available. So if he can either play 3 safeties or 3 linebackers, depending on how buys go. So I think on a week-to-week basis, he's got as solid as a lineup as you'll see, on where he's not going to be put in bad positions very often from buys. And if he gets hurt, he can afford it. And that's a tough thing to do in this league. Taxi squad, he's even got like some interesting guys that could come up for him, right? He's definitely, Grant Ritchie's could end up being, he doesn't need him right now, right? Because he's got good safeties, Austin Watkins and Jalen Hurd. Yeah, definitely move there. And he's even got Charlie Warner in there as like, a possible injury or, a fill-in if Kittle gets hurt. So like, and he took a lot of guys I like. So in the draft, I've said so. So I think.
Did you check out his draft capital for next year, Ben, by any chance?
Oh, you know what? I didn't. I actually had done it with all the other teams, and
I've got it pulled up. Who is this? Is this Penn State?
Penn State, yeah.
Penn State.
Yeah, he has 2 firsts. He has Jesus's first and John Candy.
Oh yeah, he's got
a second, a third, 3 fourths, and a 5th.
So he's in prime position for this year and moving forward. But that's to be expected from what I've heard about Mike and how he runs his team. So no big surprise there.
Yeah, not a lot of holes. Couldn't put any dents. Sorry, I tried, Mike.
Well, let's really move to a juggernaut in this division, Mr. Sal Paradiso himself, in his first full year as the GM of this wonderful team that he's put together. Ben, feel free after the morning we've had together. Just let me have it. I'm ready. I got some toilet paper here if I feel like I'm getting ripped up too bad, and I'm good with it.
You're so nervous. It's okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but once you took this team over, you traded for the Bears, right? Quarterback.
Yeah, I had the Lions, and I made a trade with Wayne after he acquired the Bears. I thought that they were gonna pick someone. I really honestly didn't think it was gonna be Fields, but I did make the mistake of extending them only for 3 years before the draft, which was something that I learned. I thought you could make those adjustments, up until the deadline, which was something I learned. I wish that wouldn't have happened, but otherwise, it worked out well for me. So I came.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only critique I have of the situation, because even before they had drafted somebody, I really felt if you're gonna, bang the red rocket out of there, you're probably getting your entire coaching staff fired, and you're basically throwing it down the tube and moving on to next year. And at that point, if you weren't getting a quarterback this year, you were definitely going to get one next year.
Yep.
So I mean, I use that strategy. I like it, because it was a couple scenarios. They either get him this year or, they get it next year because everyone's gone and they got to start from scratch. So that move worked out really good for you. Now in the auction, I thought you got some guys really cheap. Obviously, we talked about this before. Malcolm Brown, I thought was, maybe I'm just the only one that likes him. I thought I was pretty absurdly cheap. And then Jamal Williams was probably like 20% too cheaper than I probably thought he would go. But both of them at first, on my first look on your team and how things worked out, I actually really didn't like the deals for you. And I'll tell you why. I wasn't sure if hinging that much money long-term on backups was a good idea when you're clearly rebuilding. After looking at their contract statuses, though, they have Jamal Williams signed for 2 years. He actually has a lot of guaranteed money that second year, so probably not moving on unless a dumpster fire happens. So he has that role and that complimentary role at worst probably for 2 straight years. So that can work out. And then Malcolm Brown, even at 96 in 2 years, it's not that bad. I think he's a 2-year contract as well. So I won't completely go against it when I think you probably needed to focus on guys that you could keep much past 2 years that you could hit more home runs on, because essentially your team is going to be tough to compete in the short term because you weren't given a very good team, right? I think you got one of the worst draws of the year.
I got the last pick out of the orphan teams, and
yeah, I just remember looking at the team and it was a really it was going to be an uphill battle the whole way. So those guys, if they can get solid rotational roles, they can get you some points this year. If they solidify, they can get you some points next year. But those 2-year contracts, I get the logic. I understand why you got them 2 years, but it will really suck if they don't work out because that's a lot of dead cap.
I honestly, the way I looked at it, and this could be wrong, I think Jamal Williams has a role that's bigger than most people expect. I've just seen so much information being talked about Swift, and this is really not a make it or break year for him, but he has some difficulty running between the tackles, and Jamal Williams can pound those gaps consistently, and I just think they're going to run the football a shitload. And from watching Goff, like there's a lot of play action involved and stretch play actions with him too. So I think he's going to be return more money than say a Mostert or someone else, and so I'm fine with that contract for 2 years. My point was I wanted to get some solid players at decent prices for these next 2 years, and then when I built through the draft, have all that money open up, in 2 years from now, and then be able to hit you'll see that most of my players were signed for short contracts under 2 years. And so then I'll be able to add some players through the draft in 2 years, have them be ready to play, and then have a bunch of money to hit the free agency market in 3 years again. And that was the strategy for the most part, except for a couple of exceptions.
I took those into consideration, and, I don't like your depth. I'm not going to like a lot of people's depth at running back. It's just going to be the reality of it. I don't love my depth, but I think you got a good chance of Herbert returning kicks, and it's really valuable when you have a guy like that when you don't have depth, because then you get a bye week and you're like, man, I'm not putting a 0 in, thank God. So if he works out and you get that, then that should be okay. The other guys on the team are going to need a lot of help to make anything happen, but
for sure.
So if we go to the wide receiver, we don't need to talk about Gabriel Davis. And the reason is because we talk too much about Gabriel Davis. I don't know if we talk as much on Gabriel Davis in this podcast as happens in our chats, but it's nauseating. Okay. We know the trade that happened. Corey's all in on him. He's a young prospect. The contract's super good. If Gabriel Davis is really good, Corey's going to laugh at the league. And if he isn't, then maybe it'll be vice versa. But Gabriel Davis is a good guy at that price. I don't have any guys that good at that price, so congrats on that. But you did fuck it up because you went and got Odell Beckham for $330. And I know you're going to want to sit here and you're going to tell me, well, I got a plan, Ben. I'm going to $330 this year, and then I'm going to put a franchise tag on him next year. Here's the problem with that. He has 0 guaranteed money next year. 0. You need him to be elite this year and get a contract extension. Because if he isn't elite this year and doesn't get a contract extension, he's not going to get paid as much as he wants to get paid. And he's a fucking hothead. So he's going to go to some team and he's going to be a fucking problem. And then you're paying what? 3-year contract, $275 for Odell Beckham. And I think it's crazy. I mean, he's in theory, you think he's got 2 more years of team. He doesn't, man. If he gets hurt at all, and even if he hasn't, they might cut bait with him. They have other guys like People Jones. I'm seeing really good things about. So like, I think they're ready to move on from Odell. And I don't know how well he would handle the next change of scenery where he's probably not going to get paid very well.
So let's discuss that real quick. So the options at wide receiver, in my opinion, were Julio Jones, who cost 400, right? He is not, to me, someone I wanted to franchise tag because he's 31 years old. I just don't see Julio Jones being elite at, the next 3 years. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I felt more comfortable taking Beckham and hoping that he returns to form at his age. I don't think moving on from Cleveland is such a bad thing. I could see him going to a more established team with a more established quarterback and finding himself kind of a second career and being pretty, maybe it's a Randy Moss type situation where he goes into a better system and gets his shit under control and a little maturity. Who knows? But at the end of the day,
like
it's a 1 year risk. It's a 1 year risk on someone that has elite talent that was, a superstar player. And to me, is heads in the field of everybody not named Julio Jones as far as that option is concerned. I'm not going to pay for Devontae Parker. I don't believe in him long term. So I think that was to me, that was the plan. I bluffed on Julio Jones, went after Beckham, and was going to get him at all costs, and I did it in 2 leagues. If he works out, great. If he doesn't, he's cut bait, and you get the $330 back.
Fair enough. You will get the $330 back. That's my point. I believe if you're going to go strong at a guy, I would go with somebody who is a little more certain as my franchise tag guy, because there's nothing you're going to want more is to not have an idea what the fuck his future is when that franchise tag comes around. And then you're like, well, shit, he might go to this. This might be good. And then like, you don't know. So like, I don't like those situations personally, as much as I talk shit on Bobby Wagner going for $180. And he's probably still going to be good for 3 more years. But
so you're not saying wide receiver specific for going after someone in the auction. You're saying that money could have been put on a linebacker or something that I could have.
I think if your point was to franchise guys, I think you're going about the wrong way, because you're not necessarily completely shoot in to compete next year. So now let's say even he does work out, you franchise him. Now he's going to take a shit ton off your roster by the time you get competitive. And that's tough, man. When you have these really big contracts, you really got to work the rest of your team around them. So if you'd gone in a different direction, gone in a different player, that long-term would have cost you less money. I would have probably liked that a little more. And you could sprinkle a little more in on getting some more younger upside guys in other positions. That's simply my point.
All right. We'll see what happens. I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. And hey, man, you did lay out a scenario. I don't think it's a probable one, but you laid out a scenario where it can all work out. And I think that's fine. I think you could have eliminated doubt and probably got something more certain, but we'll move on. The rest of the wide receivers are all going to be guys who are young, unproven, buy lows in a lot of situations. I like it. I mean, those are guys you do when you're rebuilding. You hope you hit on a couple of them. They make long-term contracts and make the rest of your $350 or whatever Odell Beckham is year 2 a little more palatable. So tight end, same thing, man. Like, I don't know. I think you guys are probably you might be higher on Adam Shaheen this year than I am. I see both those guys kind of struggling to put up consistent starting numbers year 1. I like Pat Freiermuth, probably not this year as much as I do next year. I think he's just going to have to fight for snaps, and usually it takes a long time. So again, where would I have addressed it? I probably would have got somebody that was a little more comfortable starting at tight end position. Again, if you just know you're kind of shot in the dark this year anyways, it is what it is. You have a good future there. So
Ferkser was the target, but I wasn't spending $180 on him, and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, I think that tight end market got really disgusting really fast.
Yeah.
But I kind of expect that, we had Jared Cook go for $200 last year. Remember that, Josh? I was just like, holy shit, Jared Cook, like the hell just happened? But it is what it is. I mean, I think a couple of these positions went really expensive, some went cheaper, and we'll see where it all goes. D tackle, you got some guys, they'll work out. I mean, you don't have to fucking score the farm with it. I think I think you'll be able to get a starter you're happy with at that position between your group. I'm a fan of AJ Epinesa until they did so much drafting around him. That doesn't mean he's not going to be good. I think he's super talented. So if he comes out and works out and you have Carlos Dunlap, then you have a little more security and it should work out for you. Which I actually personally think AJ will probably get more snaps than those rookies do. So I think it should work out in your favor. The Everson Griffin is an interesting one because I'm hearing nobody wants him. I'm totally cool with the $20 price. I would have paid that. I thought that was palatable for a free agent. And I thought Olivia Vernon was too. Both these guys are going to get you to the gun probably before they get a team. I know Everson Griffin's trying to get on the Vikings, but we're kind of not really interested in going that way. But he might end up being, starting right D end for some team, or just a rotational guy if he's willing to take that role. So Anthony Hitchens, I'm glad you signed him for 1 year. $70 is pretty palatable, but I would say if you would have gone long-term with him, you would have been in trouble. He would have had to get a really middle linebacker needy team next year for him to find consistent snaps. So Khalil Mack, I thought was super cheap. Even though I talk as much shit as I talk about outside linebackers, how I don't like owning them, Khalil Mack in a great season can still get 180 points at linebacker, even as an outside linebacker. And when you consider 180, 170, where these other ones we were seeing, I thought it was a pretty good price tag there. After that, Oren Burks, maybe, I don't know. What do you think of Oren Burks? Josh, do you think he has a chance to start for you guys? Yeah.
No.
I had heard he wasn't doing much. And then Ben Neiman's a sleeper. I think he will be that third linebacker. He might even get a lot of a run. I got him as an undrafted free agent back when he came out. But I think he'll be a rotational guy regardless now. And I think probably moving on, I think he's a big special teams guy for him. So you got something there. But again, I liked having a little more depth at that linebacker position. Got to start 3. The buys get brutal. Injuries happen so often. So I would work on grabbing another one if you could. And then cornerback, Patrick Surtain, you got super late. That was good. And then, you have some guys that should be good. Xavier Rhodes should get picked on again. So he'll probably end up being a pretty good scorer there. AJ Bouye, he's a wild card. You got him cheap. He could come back and be a dude. And then, I really liked you getting Xavier McKinney. I thought I think you got him cheap, or
no, he was inherited. He was previously picked by the previous owner. Yeah, I've had. Oh, you know what? No, he was a throw-in from someone else, and I can't.
Well, I just think
no. I'm sorry. He was on my roster when I took over the team.
Okay, maybe.
But I have not given him up. He's been pitched at for a long time.
Yeah, I think he's going to be good this year. I think they're going to give him all the snaps he can handle. And if he can make that comeback that he's supposed to, they spent so much draft capital on him. I think that's going to be a good pick for you and a solid safety moving forward. And, hopefully my boy Ardavius Washington works out for you. And then, you got some rookies there, and the worst, they'll probably a couple of them will get you some rotational stuff as they ease them in. Rashawn Jenkins should be good as well. So safety spot, I think you're doing all right.
All right.
And you got some real darts. I like darts at good positions. You have darts at running back, you have darts at wide receiver, you have darts at DNs. Those are the kind of darts that are good to have in your taxi squad. They're frustrating because, all of a sudden you have Omar Bayless and some jackass comes and steals them off your taxi squad, but they're good to have. At least they get you 2 picks.
Well, you should have probably moved him off your taxi squad the minute I joined this league, because I acquired him in every single league that I've been in. But
I don't. Yeah, really. At that
maybe you
time,
didn't really want him.
I wasn't paying that much attention. I didn't hate it because I think you gave me a 4th and a 5th for him.
I don't remember. It was so long ago.
I never hate getting activated and somebody activating on my taxi squad in this league. Unless it's if it was like a James Robinson or something like that, yeah, I want to jump off a cliff. But, in general, even if you miss out at a guy, getting a 2-for-1 capital when people have to activate so early in this league, you can't wait. You know what I mean? So like, again, when you go in and got our Davis Washington, and I mean, the guy hasn't even hit training camp yet. So I got.
We'll see
two
what
picks
happens
for
there. I'm confident that I made the right decision, but that's also because of how I know you felt about him, whether or not you enjoyed
I
getting the
fucking love
picks
him.
back. Right. And I have him
love
in
him.
every other league. So I liked him too. I couldn't believe that, he was a $1 player in this league. It just kind of baffled me, but he's undersized and I think he plays with the chip on his shoulder. I think he's going to be good, but we'll see. He could,
Well, he's $1 because I got him in the 6th, right?
right. Yeah. I mean, he's,
And because he added him to the system, he actually lost that tag, so that's why you don't see it. But
got it.
anyway.
But other than that, I just to skip ahead because we've talked already too much, and poor Josh has been on call for an hour and hasn't said a damn thing.
I have a quick
That's not the
question.
point. Go ahead.
What's the deal with Omar Bayless? I mean, I haven't heard much about him. I know he was decent
he's a
draft
young-
capital last year.
Young, athletic receiver at a smaller college that had some personal issues and overcame them and led the whole nation in receiving yards.
Oh, wow.
I think Arkansas State his senior year. And then last year he was making a lot of noise in camp after I'd done the research on him in the other drafts and making some pretty spectacular plays and whatnot, and then had a very serious injury. And so then he, but they kept him on the taxi, or no, they kept him on active roster, Ben, or did they move him to the taxi? I don't think they let him go to the taxi squad, which is also a good
Practice squad, you mean?
Yeah, practice squad, exactly. I could be
Might have
wrong,
started
but
there, but
they kept
he
him
was
on
on
roster and injury reserve or whatever. So, is that right? Maybe I'm not saying that right. I just know that they're high on him, whether or not they drafted other people, and he's a young kind of product development talent. But I just watched a lot of game tape, and he's just a dart throw. But I think he could carve himself out a role if he makes some noise again this year. So.
Sure.
I put a lot of work into my undrafted free agent class, and Corey, you stole 2 of them from me. So if
Yeah,
want
well,
them,
I still have to get you back for the James Robinson snatch, my first league within 3 weeks. Of me doing it,
Yeah.
so it's all good. I drafted James
How's it?
Robinson in the 6th round in a league last year, I think, and Ben snatched him from my taxi squad, my first ever Paragon league.
I think it was worse. I think you got him. I think you got him in the 8th, and I gave you a 7th and an 8th for him.
It's really bad. It was really bad.
really
And I
unfortunate.
get it, but there's going to be a slow burn in getting Ben back for sure, and I will figure it out one day, and maybe just little pieces at a time. But that's the type of friends we are. You just you just go right for the gut right away. So it is what it is.
Right.
I will say that I do have a no first next year. I used one of my firsts for
I forgot to talk about your picks.
Herbert.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but I do have a lot
but
of
you have a
draft
lot
capital.
of 2nd and 3rds, and
I think I have
you'll be
7
able to
between
either-
seconds and thirds. and
Yeah, I
that's-
saw that. You have a lot of draft capital, which is kind of all that matters. You can get leveraged into a first if you want. Again, like your first one with what? Did you Gabriel Davis trade? Where'd your first go?
I had 2 firsts that I acquired. I used 2 of them for Gabe Davis, and then I used a late first, which I assume will be a late first, which was G Dubs, to get Herbert this year because I like the idea of having him 2 years from now being ready to go, and so that's why I made that move. But I'm still learning. I really have a lot to learn, and I'm making mistakes left and right. But I'm happy with the way the auction went. I felt like
We
I
all
did a
make
pretty good
mistakes in
job.
this league.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna pat myself on the back. Proof will be in the pudding in years 2 and 3 as far as me being a GM in this league.
Can we
and
talk
whatnot.
about you getting Blake Pohl for $61?
Yeah. So
Who was bidding against you?
I don't know. It's fine.
Who likes Blake Pohl as much as you did? I'm a Vikings fan, and I was like, I get he's Ricky Prohl's son, man. Like he's at best a practice squad guy for us. Who knows? But $61.
It's either going to
Well,
be
we
him or
went for-
BB that becomes Thielen. I'm not sure who it'll be, but I don't know. I like taking just like I'm calling my Braxton Berrios shot. I like being right, and I don't care about the price tag. If I'm wrong, so what? It is what it is. But I have a somewhat of a knack, I will say, for finding wide receiver talent out of thin air and being early on people and being right about them. If I pat myself on the back about one thing, that's what I've been good at so far in fantasy in general. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm the same way with Seth Williams. I own him in all 3 leagues as well. So we'll see what happens. Josh,
I
I'm
forgot to
so
bust your
sorry.
balls for Barrios.
I'm so sorry, buddy, for keeping you at bay. I'm sure you're going to provide us a real lesson here on how to review the teams. Can you remind me of who your first one is so I can pull them up on the board?
Let's go with the freshly squeezed, whatever that
Freshly
is.
squeezed, Ian DuPont.
OJ all day.
All right, buddy.
So
We have
I
you have all the time you need.
did a more of a bulleted, like a strength, weakness, neutral position group
Love it.
wise. Let's start with his wide receivers. I really like Godwin and Chenault right here. Very decent depth with Bourne and Callaway. I like the contracts that he has with Chenault, and Godwin's super cheap. Obviously he'll be able to franchise tag Godwin and keep him with the team for a long time, and then he can extend Callaway and Chenault, and he has a nice base built right there. That's a good base for long-term success with the wide receivers. Another group there. Let's take the running backs. I graded them as a neutral. It's not really a strength. I don't see it as a weakness either. I really like Gus Edwards. I think that he's a solid, 1B to the 1A that is Dobbins. Gaskin, I want to like him so much. I just can't really get behind any of the Miami running backs because there's so many and they're all so similar. You got Ahmed and Gaskins, who I feel like are pretty. Gaskins a little bigger, but they're both quick, twitchy running backs. And then you have Michelle, who I think is a horrible contract personally. I mean, he's cheap, but I think he's on his way out. I see him following the Gurley model, kind of, with knee issues and possibly being out of the league. He's already being pushed to the back burner for Harris. I like Stevenson and JJ Taylor there as well. I think all three of them are going to produce this year. I think Michelle will probably equal the points that he put up last year. I mean, 63 points at $83. That's not a very good dollar to point ratio there for. But with running back, you do what you got to do. I get it.
I think the best bet for Sony Michelle is probably if he gets cut. I think they're going to put him basically to nothing.
Why? Sony Michelle in Atlanta,
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. There's or even Miami, which is what wouldn't be good for this team. But he's just not he's fallen out of favor with Belichick. Doesn't mean he can't run the rock up the middle and get 4 yards.
He just hasn't been durable, But I liked him when I watched him play. I don't think he's super explosive, but he's not a dog either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was
damn good. That's why I think it's a neutral position group there, because you got the upside of Edwards, who, week in, week out, you can bet on his points. They're going to be there, 8 to 12 points, pretty much week in, week out. Gaskins is going to have your big weeks, and then you're also probably going to have a few goose eggs from him. So just not a lot of depth, which no one has any depth, like you said earlier. But
except for Roman, except for French,
and the last guy, was it Penn State that had a lot of depth?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So neutral there. Quarterback, I think that's an awesome contract, free for 5 years. Basically, you've got Kirk Cousins. As long as he's the quarterback, it's a solid play week in, week out. I feel, even with it being a run first offense, he can definitely sling the rock. We'll see what Kellen Mond does whenever he takes over here in a couple of years, but Cousins is a lot of fun. And then with Justin Jefferson there, I mean, you're going to have weapons. He definitely has weapons. Herb Smith.
That dollar price tag, man. That dollar price tag. I couldn't believe he went that cheap.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, in years past, you get ran up on every single quarterback, and I got lucky last year. I waited and picked the Packers, and this year a lot of guys got lucky.
Yeah.
Tight end. This is a rough one. They're really relying heavily on the rookie out of Houston, Brevin Jordan. I just don't know if he's. Early on, tight ends just don't produce. maybe here in 5 years or so, he'll be a stud. But
And Houston's drafted like one every draft for like 4 straight years too.
yeah, you got Jordan Thomas, is that his name, and then Akins and
Akins. Well, who was the guy who was the guy who punched like he like went and got in a bar fight and like broke his hand and then got cut because they drafted for somebody?
Was it like Kale Waring or something? Was he
maybe
there too?
I can't remember. Somebody who was like when they drafted, I think Thomas, like he went and got in a bar fight that night because he was so mad, and then fucking like broke his hand, and then like got cut from the team.
So, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, he'll probably be better than that guy. But
yeah, I mean, no, that guy's not in the league anymore. I don't think so.
Quentin Morris, I went and looked him up, see if maybe he's some sort of sleeper, but I'm not sure that he's going to make the team this year. He seems to be a solid piece down the road that might produce, but I think he should probably be on the taxi squad if it were me. Kicker, punter, irrelevant. DT and DE, I just kind of lumped them into one because there's really no standouts here other than Hayward. I like Mariner just because of his salary, which we can't see, but it's $1.20, I believe, down there. He's he put up 70 something points last year or more, so that's a lot of return on that roster spot for that low salary. So that's an awesome piece that he has there moving forward. Is he the long-term solution? I don't know. The Falcons probably need to draft someone that's a little more, big name to fill that spot. But and DT, there's just a lot of aging guys there. Linval Joseph is like 48 years old now. I like Ogunjobi though. Ogunjobi has a decent contract there, $15 or so for 2 years.
I think he's taking that Atkins role, right? Or Geno Atkins, they moved on from and took Ogunjobi. He could be sneaky.
Yeah, he could put up an easy 140, 150. I mean, because he's going to be an every down player. If Jarrell Casey, Bruce Irvin, any of these guys actually produce, you might get something a little depth here. But the Mariner kid is probably my pick of the litter here between the two position groups. With that salary, man, that's just awesome to grab somebody in the auction for $1 last year that put up 75 points, and he's young. So well done there. But yeah, Cameron Hayward is on the downslide. I highly doubt he sees 120 again this year, but you never know. And then you have your linebacker crew. You've got the tackling machines: Demario Davis, Jalen Smith, CJ Mosley. They're all solid. Luckily, with the aging Demario Davis, or the $136, it's only a 1-year contract. CJ Mosley, I remember what he was like before last year. So he could be a solid piece there as well. And depending on what the Cowboys do with their line backing, it's more than a room. It's huge. I mean, it's
a hotel.
All those guys. Yeah, you got all those guys, and then you throw Keanu Neal in there. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
That Mosley was pretty expensive. 170. He's the second most expensive that was taken in the auction. And at first, I was like, I wanted to really hate it, but it was just like, if Mosley can be what he can be, what we've seen him in Baltimore when he's healthy, like then he's Bobby Wagner, so it's fine. Sometimes you got to swing for the fences. So I thought it was a crazy high contract for him, but like, man, he's got real upside
for sure. Secondary, we can loop it all together. You've got two players really. I mean, you got Humphrey and Chin. Solid foundation there to build on for a few years. Looks like Humphrey, you can do a tag there, and Chin can be, extended. The rest of them, I mean, you might get lucky. Logan Ryan, who knows what he'll do this year, but I do like this kid, Hawkins, the safety out of Atlanta. He was a late round pick last year, I believe, but him and that Richie Grant are supposedly going to be filling the Keanu Neal role. And hopefully we get some production there. especially
I think they played a lot
$1.20.
of three safety splits too. Atlanta. Who's their defensive coordinator that came over?
Well, they lost. No, I'm not sure. Let's look. If only we had a way to find this out.
Yeah, where's the internet when you need it?
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, their head coach. is a
Dan
defensive-
Pease. The dude's name is Pease.
Where was he coaching last year? Is it Arizona?
We'll have to update the
Anyways,
the
I'm not sure.
viewers with that information at a later time, just in order to
Sure.
continue Josh's expert analysis.
Oh, yeah. Already talked about the salaries a little bit. I did break it down separately on my notes here. The only thing that really stands out is the aging LB or linebackers are expensive, but they're all on one-year deals, which is good. You have a lot of young talent that's eligible for extensions. I think this guy. I mean, he's definitely on the come up. Solid base with the QB and wide receivers. You got to start from scratch though, basically with tight end, defensive end, and then linebacker next season. So it'll be real interesting to see what he does with his picks. He does have all of his own picks, and then he should have a decent amount of salary cap to go play in the free agent auction next year.
All right, Josh, I'm not going to try and steal your thunder, but I got to do this. I'm going to do it every segment. Freshly squeezed. I'm talking to you right now, brother. One person on your taxi squad is fucking unacceptable, son. You're going to have to change that name to Lazy Freshly Squeezed because you didn't fill that taxi squad. Come on, fill your taxi squad, son. The auction's there. Could have got plays for $1. Filled that thing up. Come on, guys. What are we
Freshly
doing
squeezed
here?
my ass. That shit's been squeezed hours ago, or
Yeah, that was
something.
like last night squeezed.
Last night squeezed.
Yeah.
Good job, Ben. Did you see that Lazy Bears is now Lazy Bears? I love that.
That was my I think I'm going to make a segment now. It was like, shout out to, well, first of all, I said, I called them Lysol Bears. And then he went to Lazy Bears. So I made 2 digs at his team and then he embraced it. I love you, Lazy Bears. Take it to the rack, baby. I love it.
Josh, I just want to tell you that that was just awesome, man. Clean analysis. Loved what you did there, buddy. But
Appreciate it.
I am even more excited for your analysis of Mr. Matthew
He gets Wayne.
Shumway. Wayne's World, American Psycho Enterprises. Boy, if we had Mr. Wayne Matthew Shumway on the pod right now, it would be.
Hold on, wait. For the record, I haven't looked at Wayne's team in the last week and a half. Has he have any of the same players as he did a week and a half ago?
He's Derrick Henry.
It's been relatively quiet in the whole league, but
I guess I had questions for Georgia after seeing how many trades he's made this year. Holy hell.
It's been quiet. We need to liven this league back up and get back to having some fun.
They're waiting on a podcast. Trades start firing off after we put these things out and talk about how much we like everyone's roster.
I think everybody missed us. We just need to keep the energy alive. And how much we hate doing it, Ben. We just got to keep it going because we are the heart and soul of this league. Just remember that. Go ahead. You're gonna take it away again, Mr. Buster. You are killing it.
All right. So breaking this down basically the same way. Let's just start with running back being a strength and a weakness, I feel, because it could be either way. He has Derrick Henry, and you'll hear me say that over and over probably because that's about where it stops, I feel. He's one of the most dominant running backs playing. Derrick Henry's awesome. However, I just lots of usage there. College all the way throughout out the pros. He scares me. In the 25 plus leagues I'm in, I have 0 shares, and I've never had a share of him.
25 leagues.
Yeah, roughly 25.
Good God, Josh!
Football.
Can you actually show us a picture of your girlfriend? Because I'm not sure that any man alive that has 25 25 fantasy leagues is capable of holding down a healthy relationship. I'm just kidding. You don't have to show me a picture.
I'm trying to find one. I mean,
That's insane, brother.
she's
That's
con-
insane.
she's basically.
Wait, I think
real.
Moose had a shitload of leagues too, didn't he?
25 leagues. Oh,
Well, then I'm also in
guys
some
are-
four
you
sport,
guys are
nine
fucking
sport,
heroes.
and
Yeah. Hold on, Corey. He says that's 25. That's 25. Like,
Football
is that
leagues.
all sports or is that just
No.
football?
that's
Do you
just
do
football.
25 hockey and 25 basketball?
No.
Jeez.
So
Jesus
as
Christ.
far
How many
as,
cars do you actually sell a month, Josh? I mean,
we average? We do all right.
all right.
No, but for real, like I'm in four sport or nine sport leagues that do a year round tally, and the winning team of all the sports wins the pot. And that's
Oh,
where
wow.
all the obscure ones like the
Whoa,
Premier
hold
League.
on.
That is going to blow
hockey.
Ben's mind.
It's like
Yeah.
the beer Olympics, except
Yeah.
fucking fantasy.
Exactly.
And does your
NASCAR,
Madden
PGA.
League include into that too? So it
No.
is no. Okay. Gee whiz,
No.
man. You
Holy
might be one
shit.
of the
Don't tell
more-
Roman about this league.
He's
What-
in
what-
a couple with me away from Blue Chips, like that I've drug him into.
Oh, that's
Roman
awesome.
is?
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Wait.
closet joining leagues that we don't even know about.
He doesn't want to tell us about
He doesn't
Well,
want us in them.
One of them is kind
Oh.
of a joke. I mean, whenever you break it down, but it's
Boy,
fun.
if we have more time at the end of this, let's
Yeah, we can
let's
discuss
continue that conversation. But I can't wait to hear the rest of the analysis of Mr. Shumay's team.
All right.
It's already a
Oh.
great segment.
Great segment.
The reason why his running backs are a strength, other than just Henry, is I really like Jeremy McNichols. I think that he is the running back two there. I'm not huge on Darrington Evans. I think that he'll continue to fill in here and there. But I think that McNichols is a pretty solid piece, at least for this year. And then you have, let's see, Gurley. Didn't he sign back in Atlanta? Or
I haven't
was he
seen
going
that.
to? Okay. Burkhead, solid producer. He continues year in, year out to, put up, respectable numbers. That's about as far as he's gone lately, is respectable. He did have that one huge game. What was it, 2 years ago? I think he had like 40 something points in like the playoff time, I believe,
Yeah.
and that was pretty insane. But the reason why is the weakness. Age catches up with everyone. If he were to lose Derrick Henry, he's done. I mean, that's it. I mean, McNichols. I mean, he'll put up some points as a number two, but that's it. Henry is all.
But I think they got McNichols on a couple-year deal, at least two. I mean, I got to go confirm this, but like I was surprised he signed him to one when he has
Right.
Henry to a four. I just think like I agree with you. I think McNichols is definitely a sneaky guy. He's had a hard time staying healthy and getting opportunities sometimes. But I think he's talented, and I think Jesus, if Henry does get knocked, get hurt, you're sure that's all going to want him.
Definitely. Quarterback, there's real no reason to talk about there other than, Goff isn't horrible. It's going to be ugly this year. You got Hawkinson and then the St. Brown kid. And other than that, it's going to be slim pickings.
I just want to point out that I was offered Randall Cobb for Odell Beckham, and based off the idea that Cobb was outperformed Beckham last year. But we don't have to get into that.
I don't know. I think it's a decent offer. You get $200, $230.
Oh no! There was other parts of the deal that were in his favor as well that balanced out the cap as well. So, but anyway, I love Wayne. I want another offer tonight.
Yeah, I haven't had a message that says hi in a long time. So
Wait. He wanted to have Beckham and Landry on the same team.
Yeah, he's all in. He was all in.
He wanted to pay $630.
I think he was giving me Gurley back. I think he was giving me Gurley back as well, and a cornerback, or I don't know. It was one of those deals.
Let's see. For some reason, I didn't break down the wide receivers on my notes, but it's Landry. It's Jarvis Landry. Other than that, Randall Cobb may help whoever the quarterback is there, Tyrod or Davis Mills or whoever they decide to find off the streets. Plus the Falco from Replacements, he might show up.
Moore could have a role. He could have a role. I think he's
Yeah,
listed
David
third on the
Moore,
depth
man.
chart right now.
Either that or your Omar Bayless could be the third there.
That's what we're hoping for.
uh, Darius Shepard, he's a former Green Bay guy, I believe, practice squad player.
Yeah, he
Decent
is.
speed. Just nothing too special there. Tight
I
end.
traded Wayne
Cameron.
Darius Shepard.
You did?
Yeah, I had him
Was it
last year when he
before he
was on
signed
Green
with
Bay.
Kansas City or after?
Yeah, actually, I think I gave it to him for free because he was a free agent at the time. So
Look at
Um,
look at Wayne picking up signed players.
Well done. Cameron Brate being tight end under Brady, he could be his favorite weapon week one, and then you never hear from him again the rest of the season because of how many weapons they have there. Lots of mouths to feed. Brate is solid. He's a great red zone target. I do think this might be the year that OJ Howard finally does something. At least maybe that's just me hoping that I finally get some sort of return on this guy. But Cameron Brate, I mean, who knows really? And then other than that, Parkinson has a chance to make some noise there in Seattle.
I like
Hunter Bryant,
Parkinson. I like Parkinson at the price, and
yeah, it's a good price for both of those guys, Hunter Bryant and Parkinson. I'd like them both better if they were on a taxi squad, though.
Good point.
Unfortunately, he probably didn't draft them. Looks like he probably got a trade. Um, let's see. As far as defensive end, defensive tackle, there wasn't a lot to talk about. They're two solid options. He can plug and play either of them every week. They're both going to put up numbers. Nothing special, really. The Quentin Jefferson, I'm not sure where he's at on the depth chart, but he should see a decent number of snaps there. Defensive end, let's see. What did I write down? Good depth. No one really stands out, and there's no bad contracts, which is a good thing. All in all, he really doesn't have any horrible contracts across the board. Cobb is probably the worst one, and that's not even that bad because it's a one-year deal on a guy that's going to produce this year. So I would say that's even a good contract.
Frank Clark, if Frank Clark really is in trouble, he's really having chance of suspension and stuff. I gave Dan Michael. I didn't like it, but I gave him as throwing. He was on my taxi squad.
Yeah.
Wayne, I really like Dan Michael a lot. He was an undrafted free agent that I spent $40 on in the auction, or 34
during the Wild
me.
West days.
Yeah, on the Wild West days, but like I really liked him that much that I was like, okay, screw it. Like I have such a deep list that usually I let those guys go, and he got some sacks last year. But if Clark's out, that could be a real screamer.
Yeah. Let's see. Linebacker, you got Neville Hewitt, who, if he repeats what he did last year, I mean, he's a stud. If he repeats what he did last year, that's a really big if. He did it. He's done it once, so we'll see. Tyrell Adams, same story. He had a great year last year, and at that contract, I mean, if he can repeat that from last year, who knows? But I think Milano is healthy this year, whereas he wasn't last year.
correct.
So that could really play into that.
I want to make one note real quick on Hewitt, because this is a crazy perspective. This is from my perspective, but a perspective I had pre-auction and post-auction is like, I really thought that Hewitt contract was like kind of expensive for like, I didn't think he probably had a long-term, like he's probably going to be a rotational guy. Like, and then all of a sudden you see how much linebackers went for, and you're like, man, oh, Hewitt's really cheap. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, like Wayne got him before the auction for like kind of nothing. Like I think maybe Roman or something. Like I remember somebody was trying to get rid of him, and he basically got him for not a lot. And then post auction, all of a sudden it looks like a steal.
Well, especially since Houston didn't really bring in a whole lot of talent there. They brought in some depth pieces, but no real big names. Cornerback, I didn't touch on. He's got Jonathan Jones. That's really about it there. I mean, So that Joejuan Williams, wasn't he at 49ers last year? Joejuan Williams. I think he's a pretty solid piece. Maybe I can't remember there. But sorry, you said I did so well in the one before, and this one I feel like I'm stumbling through.
Well, let's focus on his what kind of draft capital does he have? And
that's easy.
Oh,
none.
Yeah. Oof. That's
so he's competing now.
And Ben, did you want to do? Did you? Yes. So let's look at that. Is he competing in your opinion, Josh?
No.
Okay. Ben, did you want to do your taxi squad lazy segment again?
Well, hold on. I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna do it. You gotta look at poor Wayne's little cap room down there. That little $4.50. You know, you can't fill a taxi squad with $4.50. You probably should have gone lighter on somebody else. God damn it, Wayne! You should have controlled yourself in the auction, save yourself $10, and got you 10 sweet little honeys out on that taxi squad for free. Just sitting, waiting, and baking for somebody like Corey Hahn to give you a nice 5th and 6th round pick for next year.
I only steal people from your taxi squad, Ben. Let's
yeah, you also paid me a 4th and a 6th, so I'm okay with it.
Well,
another problem that he's going to run into with the salary cap is if one of these one-year guys hits early in the season, he's not going to be able to extend them because isn't it a 20% bump whenever you extend them?
Yeah.
Well, let's just be honest. As active as Wayne is, he could have $400 in salary cap back by tomorrow. Who knows?
That's true.
I mean, he could have his whole taxi squad and $400 cap back tomorrow somehow, some way. So let's not count Wayne out in that regards. I think the thing that concerns me is, like we've already discussed, is, you know, we're pretty much all aboard the Derrick Henry train. We got some decent short contracts, so he will have some capital back to play around the auction, but he has no draft capital. And I don't see a ton of points being scored out of Henry and his quarterback and a couple of other positional defensive players to get him to that 220 every week that he's going to need to compete this year. So I don't know. Wayne is gonna prove us wrong. We all saw the trophy when he was on our podcast, and the proof will be in the pudding. I wish him the best of luck.
Oh yeah, for sure. Great guy.
He is a good dude. Should we close that out, Josh? I do think you did an awesome job. I wish I would have given you 3. To be perfectly honest, we didn't want to overwhelm you, and I thought we were going to have Jason on today, so I was going to give him 1 originally, but we're going to have you kind of chime in here on some of my analysis because I obviously am going to need the help. I think I had one-man Wolfpack, and like you, I kind of keep it to the bullet points. So Jonathan Wolf, I wonder how you got your name. Don't think he got cheated here. This is just how my mind works. I work in bullet points all day. So I think he has a top 10 QB contract. He's got a $2 QB for 4 years in Herbert, and I think that's outstanding. I wrote Zeke and Bleak for the running backs. I like Zeke a lot this year. I really do. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. Beyond that, it's pretty bleak. Boston Scott, probably 4th on the depth chart, 3rd. Samuel's not going to get any clock, I don't think. James White is, I think, 64 years old, so we'll see if he catches that many receptions, if he can match his age. Short terms, no young talent. That's a little scary to me. He is going to have some money to spend in the 2022 auction, but like I said, he doesn't have a ton of young talent in the running back room. He's got serviceable wide receiver room with depth issues, so kind of a similar sentiment. He's got young upside receivers in Rodgers, Hardman, and Fitzpatrick. I really like Hardman and Amari Rodgers, especially if Aaron Rodgers returns. That could be good for him. And I think Des Fitzpatrick has a chance as maybe the 3rd or 4th option moving forward in Tennessee's offense. So not horrible there. And then obviously he has Kenny Galladay and Cole Beasley, 2 kind of proven talents. Galladay's on a cheap contract as well. I think that's I think that's awesome. I, as part of a Gabe Davis truther, am a little concerned about Cole Beasley this year. I don't think someone at age 32 that is, talking about retiring because of political COVID issues, is the best case scenario for someone. I think he's barked up maybe the wrong tree there, and we'll see. They're in a compete now or bust kind of situation in Buffalo. I think they really want to compete to make it to the Super Bowl, and they got to be all hands on deck. And if you bring that negative shit into the locker room, and you're Cole Beasley, I think you probably just shut your fucking mouth and play football and work your ass off and see what happens. And if you want to retire, dude, fucking retire. Get the fuck out of there. That's how I feel about that. But anyway, good, strong receiving cord. I think he made a deal for this Mike Strachan, too, or signed him off the tax squad. I'm not even sure who that is, but if anybody has any insight on him, he seems to like him.
Yeah, I got some, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Josh. No, you go, Josh.
He's super athletic, big, reminds you of Calvin Johnson almost, is what he looks like on tape. I bought a few shares of him late and some drafts, just kind of flyers, pick on a taxi squad. I think he's super interesting there, and I like Wentz in Indianapolis this year, so it could be interesting.
Great.
Yeah, I'll just add that, like, I looked into him a lot, pre-draft, and he just looked to be like the classic raw talent guy that I invest in all the fucking time that gets cut by a team. I like these Jeff Thomas types, and he's gone, and he's like, he's turning coaches' heads. There's a lot of buzz by beat writers. So he's on my regret list, right? Like, I knew how he was raw talented and he was really good, and I didn't go after him and get him anywhere. And I'm going to regret it. I think he's going to get a shot, and he can potentially be like one of those sneaky guys that ends up being really good that we talk about who was overlooked.
I love that analysis. I'm learning something every day from the gents that are on this podcast. The tight end room. I absolutely adore Tyler Higbee and think he's going to have a breakout season. I own him in, I think, 2/3 of my leagues. This is the only one I don't own him. I just think Stafford is going to peg him in the chest repeatedly and often. And I think if he's healthy, he's going to have a huge year and probably have a lot of touchdowns. That's my opinion. And he also has Bryson Hopkins. He doesn't have the young, tall drink of water that they drafted, Jacob Harris. But I think he's probably going to pencil in more in a wide receiver mismatch role. So as long as Higbee's healthy, I think he's got a top five tight end this year. That's where I'm predicting for his season. He also has, none other than Mr. Tebow, who's going to get him at least 65 points.
I was going to say, he's got Higbee and Tebow. We know who Corey's going to pick is going to win the division this year.
Now, listen, $33 on Tebow was a little rich for even my blood.
Come on, Corey. We talked like 180 for Ferguson. You couldn't pay 33 for Tim Tebow. What's going on here?
Yeah, but I'm still very confident, just for the record, that I believe that Tim Tebow will have more than, 12 receptions. So, I don't know. It could be flip passes. It could be passing it to himself. I have no idea how he's going to get it done, but that guy believes in the Lord, and I believe in him.
Could be passing the Bible in church. Well, those don't count, though.
Yeah, that's true. I just hope he keeps his mouth shut in the locker room and, doesn't get all, holier than thou with everybody, because I don't think that flies in Jacksonville.
He's ripped as fuck, though.
We'll see. Not going to talk about this stuff. Hopefully Bears aren't punting too much this year. Moving on, week DT room and predicted production. That's what I put. I don't know. It's the defensive tackles. They're not expensive contracts. I don't know. Nobody seems to really care about defensive tackles. I like the strategy of picking an extra one up that's a solid player and playing them every week and maybe not having as quite of a great or third string defensive end. So I kind of pivot on that a little bit, but I don't think he has anybody that's extremely solid there. If I'm
Corey, but I would point out, like, for me, first of all, he's got a 3 DT rotation with a guy who has potential for real recovery upside, which is Sheldon Rankins. I mean, he was.
Oh yeah, for sure. Rankins
He's
is
really
the-
good. But you look at it, he's got $10 to the position with three guys who actually probably should score points this year. You always like to see anybody who can take any certain position and just like really invest way below market value on it. Even though D tackle isn't a ton. I mean, we did go buy a team that had like $120 at D tackle before. So,
yeah.
you know,
So I mean, he's gonna need one of those guys to outperform their previous season. Obviously, Rankins is the one that he's banking on doing that, just because his defensive end room is not very deep. If Anza signs with someone, I mean, it's hell of a deal there. Obviously, I personally have Clowney as having a breakout season and well outperforming his cost in points this year. So. I'm a Clowney believer. I think he can be nasty in Cleveland, with Garrett on the outside and just, not being having a year to get healthy and let's not forget how much of an athletic freak that guy was pre-knee injuries. I think, I saw some tape of him chasing down a rabbit in practice, and he looked pretty fast. So could have a huge breakout year there. He has Brian Burns, who's an absolute monster as well. So I mean, he has a couple of studs. He just doesn't have a lot of depth. So he should get about 20 points per week if I was estimating right from those two, Clowney and Burns. So I think that's a hell of a start, as long as they stay healthy. The linebacker room is led by Cunningham and Foyesade, representing about 25 points per week or 1/8 of the target productions for win. Anthony Walker is a solid third option on a cheap contract. So that's how I broke that down. I was just kind of looking at how many points you need per week and where you're going to get those from. And these two are completely solid. I mean, if they have similar years to they did last year. I mean, he's got a huge advantage at that position with those two. And then, like I said, Anthony Walker, not spending an astronomical amount of money on his linebackers either. His most expensive one being $91. I think that's pretty favorable. As in the auction they're going for well over $100 for anybody even close to being comparable to their type of production. So well done in that room.
And Foyesade real quick is another one of those guys, Corey. Like Foyesade, like I kind of thought he was going to have a regression. So when he franchised him, and you're like, oh man, $91 that third year, that's going to get so expensive. And I really didn't like that franchise tag. And then all of a sudden, here we are, $180 linebackers
Exactly.
in the auction, man. So that's how unpredictable sometimes like you can't really predict what everyone's going to cost when you get to that auction, no matter how many times we've done this.
Yeah, and then he has 4 safeties. Kirkpatrick will more than likely sign with someone. He doesn't have any horrible contracts there, and the one that he does is on a short term. I'm sorry, cornerbacks. Yeah, and then safety wise, I put that he has good, strong safety play with Derwin James coming back and Bates keeping form in 2022. So I like what he's done there. The other notes I put is he's only rostering 38 players with 10 taxi spots. So he does have 10 taxi players, but he's only got 39 total players. Ben, did you want to make a segment out of that? How do you only have 38 players? I mean, would you like to see the other 6 being there? As you like the flexibility?
I can give you an argument why you would.
Okay.
So you could scroll down. Okay, so he has $17. Okay, so he has his taxi squad full. Congratulations. You did what you were supposed to do. You did your goddamn job and filled your taxi squad. We love you. Now, he has some roster spots empty. I personally am not a huge fan of it. However, you don't have a lot of flexibility, and training camp injuries happen, and there's guys, and there's going to be waiver wire stuff, and you want to go and be aggressive at it. I'm actually okay with it because it means you don't have to cut a guy to go get a guy that you for sure want. Now, I wouldn't do it personally, but if you got to the end of where you're getting $1 players and there's just nobody you felt like you could confidently say was going to get a spot on a roster on a team, and you'd rather wait for training camp where all of us have 45 on a roster, have to cut somebody and make that decision to be able to pick up somebody that might sound good that's on the wire. I can justify it in that sense. I don't know if that's his thought process, but
I tell you what,
it's less egregious than I think we want to make it.
I'm going to free up another roster spot for him because I'm going to activate Sammy Reyes after this podcast if he hasn't heard it. So you heard it here first. Please don't steal my thunder. I'm going to activate
Who are you activating?
Samus
Hold
Reyes.
on, is this the first time we've activated somebody on the podcast?
I'm activating him. I've been looking at it for a while. Has anybody seen how sexy that man is? I mean, he is a walking specimen of a human being.
You're not on the right team, Corey. Help me out. Where are you?
Oh,
So he passes the eye test.
he passes the eye test. I mean, if you like, say an OJ
Is he
Howard,
a real gym rat?
huh?
Is he a gym rat?
He's a monster. He's a monster of a man. He's got a 26 pack.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a beauty. Just to have him on my team as motivation for the rest of the players to be healthy.
Who are you
and try
dropping,
to-
Corey?
Huh? I don't know yet. I haven't figured that out. But by the end of this podcast, when
Darius
I'm not
Smith?
talking, huh?
Or Washington? Or
Oh, no.
Darius Washington?
No, it'll probably be somebody.
This
less
this
significant.
Reyes kid, looks like he's a basketball player that didn't really play much football.
Nope. He's a project.
Oh,
He's
that's
a
why
project.
Corey loves him. That's why Corey loves him. He's looking for the old
Yeah, take up a
Tony
roster
Gonzalez,
spot, man. Go
Anthony
for it.
Gates, or Antonio Gates.
Yeah, I like to have a little fun, so fuck it. I'm gonna do it.
One thing
You heard it
I
here,
wanted to add-
podcast.
I wanted to add on Marlon Davidson, the DT up there. You mentioned that Rankins was a good possibility for a bounce back year. This Marlon Davidson kid, he was a 5-star coming out of high school, went to
That's
Auburn.
right.
He was
That's
all
right.
AC, all SEC. He may not be a Aaron Donald, but I mean he's definitely going to be solid, and he's only 23. So I think that's an excellent piece right there.
So I'm going to retract my comment that he has a weak defensive tackle room because I'm actually an idiot and I obviously didn't get into the weeds nasty enough.
Hey, he's
in
got
my
2 good
analysis.
prospects, and he's only got
Yeah.
$10 to the position.
All
Corey,
right.
come on.
That's why I'm a host and not an actual analyst. I'm just
Didn't
I'm just
Brown
here to fake
from
it.
Texas?
You do a good impersonation, though, Corey.
I try. The last thing I'm going to say is that he has sufficient cap to fill spots. He has lots of 2022 draft capital spread between all rounds. He needs to fill running back and wide receiver depth in draft and continue to develop defensive ends. And I think he should have approximately $300 in cap in 2022. So overall, I think he's got a pretty solid roster. I think it's just young talent development that he really needs to focus on, and he looks like is going to be able to do that through his taxi squad and not Sammy Reyes anymore, but the draft next year. He'll have 2 extra picks to choose from. That's all I got for Mr. One Man Wolfpack. And then we're going to move to Mr. Bad Boys. I'm going to do this quickly because we are getting into the 2-hour stretch, but I'm going to do him justice as well. And let me tell you, Mr. Warren G., if you're listening, you are an interesting character, fine sir, and I look forward to having you on the podcast. A very shrewd trader in all leagues I play with him, and has a overinflated sense of worth of every player on his team when he's rostered on his team. That is one thing I'll say about Mr. Warren G. But
Yes.
he
Seems
has
to
a
work.
proven
He's got-
track record, and he has a hell of a couple teams in various leagues. So I don't think him and I will ever see eye to eye on a trade, but that's okay. Trading partners aren't supposed to be established with everyone. So I put Mr. Warren G has top 7 quarterback. He's got a decent 1-2 punch at running back for under $100 in Chris Carson and Mr. James Conner. Not exceptional there. I don't believe. I think Conner is kind of turning into a jag, and I think Chris Carson's a stud, and he's underestimated every single year. But I don't know how long he's going to continue to take the punishment that he has, and I hope that Seattle kind of gets someone else in there to take some of the load off of him. But not a bad situation for this year, just not a lot of depth after it. So he has 50% of his budget on 3 players: Hopkins, Boyd, and Evans. Okay. So Evans needs to be moved before it's too late. I made that comment. He's at $246, and I think he's somewhat on a downward slope in his career. He's getting older. He's been very, very productive over the years, but I think, what's he got him for 2 more years? I think this might be the year to move him and maybe, get a better running back at a reasonably, same price as what he's paying for Evans. I just think there's a lot of mouths to feed in Tampa Bay, and I don't think Mike Evans is going to produce to what he has in the past. That's just my call out. Boyd, I'm not sold on him, and I know Ben doesn't probably want to hear that because he's an owner in other leagues, but I think he's going to have a tough year. I think it's the youth movement that's going to be dominant in Cincinnati. And he's got him for just one
How
more
old
year.
do you think Tyler Boyd is?
He's young, but I
Just ask.
I don't think he's going to. He's not going to perform at this level.
Grandpa.
No, yeah. I mean, he's expensive. He's not overly expensive. I think he'll be suitable, but I think he's going to underperform this number, 194 this year. That's my prediction. But that's not who we were talking about. We were talking about, those three players. Hopkins was at 294, and he's going to be a stud. Absolutely. $300. He's got him for 2 more years. He's going to be, 330 next year? Is that right? Or 360? So, I mean, he's got to perform. And then he's got Deontay Johnson, who I think is going to be a stud this year while Ben's still there. He's going to get peppered in targets like he did last year. And then he's got Preston Williams, who's a guy. So, I mean, he's got a solid wide receiver room. He's just spent a shitload of money on those 3 guys. So, I don't know. Any time I would imagine that you're spending 50% of your budget on 3 guys, it's maybe time to diversify a little bit. But maybe I'm wrong. That's a strategy that works.
I don't know. It's a tough position to fill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm not right, and obviously, Mr. Warren G is a G for sure and knows what he's doing. So, he's got.
You want to play that team, Corey? You want to play those?
No, he's going to smoke me this year. That's okay. That's all right. And I think I do play Warren, and I circle his matchups every year in the various leagues that we're in. So I'm looking forward to playing him in contracts. He's got a good team there too, though. Let's see. I did put he has the best wide receiver room in 2021 with Deontay on favorable long-term prospect. He also has a young developing player in Collins. I'm going to read from the script here because we're running out of time. He's got a solid tight end room with Gesicki and Croft, especially if Croft wins the job in New York. And from what I'm reading, he has a chance to supplant Herndon.
Sounds like it's going well.
So that's a solid auction spend compared to the Ferkser contract that we've already talked about. Not as good as Tebow, but solid pick.
Save it.
Hubbard to be a top 12 end? Question mark. I think everybody's a little bit down on Mr. Sam Hubbard, but I think he's going to be very, very solid this year. I think he's going to perform. Maybe not to top 12, but he's still a top 20 dynasty defensive end in most of the rankings that I see. And I think this might be the year that he kind of regains shape from his rookie year where he's outstanding and he outperforms this number of 108.
Yeah, their linebackers got to play better. If they can get into their secondary's got to hold the fucking turf, man. Like the problem is they were a dumpster fire. When you're a dumpster fire defense, quarterback can get the ball out of his hand too fast, and the pass rushers just can't perform. I agree. I like him as a bounce back.
Let's see, what else did I have? I mean, Max Crosby's solid. Okafor, if he gets a team. I didn't really have much else other than Hubbard. I think it really just depends on Hubbard, though. If he performs, then the other guys are great fill-in players that he can utilize if Hubbard returns to form. So, the LB room is loaded on cheap contracts in Kwiatkowski, Jewell, and Barrett, allowing spend in wide receiver room. That's kind of how he worked it. Lining contracts as well as young prospects in Surratt and Werner waiting in the wings. So I like what he's done at linebacker. He's got a lot of them, and he's got young ones, and he's got some guys that have already proven themselves on young contracts. On good contracts. I mean, if you look at the salaries here, I think Mac cost me more than his total linebacker room. So that's pretty fucking impressive. Again, why he's able to spend 50% of his contracts on wide receivers. So well done there, Mr. Warren G. Quarterbacks, 7 corners.
I'm also sorry, real quick, Corey. I'm like reading that Pete Werner might be a shoo-in to get like a shitload of work this first year. at the
Yeah,
linebacker
I've
position,
tried to
you know,
grab
so
him in a couple different leagues and people aren't budging. So
Surratt's looking like he might end up filling in as the Kendricks backup. I don't think he's in play for that third linebacker role.
no, but I mean, let's just be honest. As a long-term prospect, who's someone that's only been
Yeah, he's
playing
good. He's a
linebacker for a
beast.
couple years or whatever, he's young, athletic, talented, and like, I mean, I'd rather have him as a dart throw than a lot of those overpriced, $65, $70 guys that are going to be competing with younger players. So I just like what he's done. I mean, he's got a great room already, and he's got some young guys in the wing. So. I put 7 corners must be a chess move because he seems too smart to have 7 guys. So maybe he's trying to collect a couple to make a move to get another run. I mean, he's not going to get a running back out of that, but he's got a plan for that. I'm confident that he's going to do something there. And
How
then
much cap does he have, Corey? Can you flip down to see how much cap he has?
$50.
He's got $50. Okay, so yeah, if you're throwing like I just trashed having this many cornerbacks, but you see a roster is strong, it's kind of tough to. If you want to throw a bunch of darts to see who sticks, and you're going to cut bait at cornerback, and that's where you're going to get that extra roster spot where you can go after some free, some waiver wire stuff. Like I can see what he's doing. He doesn't have a lot of commitment to it. It's like I have a hard time when you have like lots of money at cornerback positions and then have lots of cornerbacks.
Mr. Warren has a plan. I guarantee that. I've seen him execute it, and he's no slouch. I mean, like that's for sure. I did put lastly on his safeties with Baker and Abrams. I think Abrams is a huge question mark this year. They drafted 2 young guys at safety. I think that guy's a head case, and I think he's probably outworn his welcome in Las Vegas in Las Vegas now. And I think he had some tackling issues last year. I mean, and he was hurt a lot. So I don't know. I'm not an Abrams fan.
He's gonna be a stud, or they're gonna move on. I think.
I agree.
If he has he's a kind of guy who could have like really good first 6 games, and then they're just like, we can't move these rookies in yet. Let's just let him beast out and go find a fucking contract somewhere else after the end.
But he's super smart because he hasn't extended him yet, and he's on a $36 contract. So I mean, he has that 4 or 5 games to see what happens. I doubt he extends him. That's my bet. But we'll see.
No,
what
you don't
happens.
have that. No, you have to. The extension deadline is before the season starts, so he's not going to get to know.
Oh, is that right? I thought you had the first
No.
4 games. Okay.
No. It's August. Shit.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. I trust you. And we're
No,
running.
there's an extension deadline date, and it's usually like post camp after a preseason game or 2. I think you get, and then you have to decide. But
All right. And then the only other note, he's obviously in win now mode, which I completely think he has a chance of doing, especially if his running backs stay healthy and or something happens to Chase Edmonds. He doesn't have any draft capital next year. He's got some cap room available if he needs to activate people from the taxi squad. I like Nico Collins as a young wide receiving prospect. Not super high on him, but he's in a great position. And of the teams that I reviewed, I think he's got the most favorable team. So, and then last one, I'm going to breeze through this one and just keep it to the bullet points, not to be rude to Mr. Harley, but I don't think he listens to us anyway because is he in Paris or something? I don't know. I haven't figured this guy out yet, but if he is listening out there, please let us know. I wrote, I love his running back room in 2022 and beyond with 3 studs, Hunt, Montgomery, and Akers. He's got potential for 50 points a game from the running back room with an average spend of $257 or 4 times the return of investment. So the reason I've been putting those numbers in is because I'm working on exactly what Josh pointed out earlier of an analysis that is calculable by putting in the amount you spent on someone and what your expected return on that player should be. Because I think that's really how you should approach building your team out in these leagues. And I haven't got through it because it's actually pretty tedious to do. But once I get through it, I think it's going to be a pretty useful tool. And I just think that's really awesome. I mean, he has Akers, Hunt, and Montgomery all below $100. He's got them on long-term contracts, except for Hunt. I just think that's arguably one of the better running back rooms in the league. And I don't know. Do you know of any better ones other than maybe Frenchies? Who I personally like this one as much as I like Frenchies, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, those are really good players.
I put he has a very serviceable wide receiver room with mixture of young prospects, best ball types, and solid performers in Woods and Lazard. So he's got Aguilar, he's got Guyton, he's got Zay Jones, McKenzie, Rondale Moore, who I love, all guys that could put up points this year, and also could just have one explosive game as he throws them in there, and get a deep touchdown or something, and kind of a dart throw play. But then he has Woods and Lazard, who I'm higher on than most, especially at $12 to have another solid season in Green Bay. I don't think he's going anywhere, even if Rodgers steps up. He's going to be. From what I watched, he was one of Rodgers' favorite targets, and he really developed some trust with Lazard last year. I don't know, Josh. Do you have any opinions on Lazard? You said you own him in a few leagues.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a great young talent. He's big, fast, makes those long strides. Looks good running down the field on those long touchdowns. I think he's a great fit.
And then I did put that Aguilar was an interesting tag and would rather have seen the money invested in auction or at another position, possibly tight end. I don't know. I don't like him at $200, but I'm not a Nelson Aguilar fan, and maybe that I'm proven wrong there. I mean, you're going to have to spend that money on someone in the wide receiver room. Probably Parker is the comp there for the price. But
there was probably just fear of cost of wide receiver replacement in the auction. We've just seen wide receivers cost so much money for that guy. In theory, we would see go for, if people like him and they're like, okay, he could be a number one at this place. So all of a sudden he's like 220, 240. And you're like, eh.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen quite that way. Like the top guys went top, and then everyone kind of, you were able to get some deals. So now looking back, like some of these others, that one actually kind of looks expensive, where, it could have gone either way.
McKenzie's been making some noise too, by the way.
It's bad news for Gabriel.
Not really. He's going to play the slot and replace Emmanuel Sanders when he's fucked up for half the season. Anyway, tight end room is suspect at best, and I don't see a serviceable starter in short or long term. So I don't think Disley is going to be the guy. There's just nobody there that is going to play from my perspective, but could be wrong. I put he has a young, cheap DT room. His defensive ends have tremendous upside in short and long term, both Pay and Bosa. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, he's got Bosa locked in for five years at $43 this year. He's got Kwity Paye. I like that. I like that a lot. Shelby Harris for a one year deal. I think he's pretty loaded at defensive end. Linebackers are low end in 2020. But have solid prospects on the taxi squad is what I put. I'll have to look at that in a second. I put very strong safety room to make up for linebacker points. So I'm just not seeing a ton here. Maybe I'm wrong. Are you guys seeing anything that you love in his linebacker room?
No, not really. It's literally Devin Bush.
Yeah, I mean, Devin Bush is like, forgot he got hurt, right? Like Devin Bush is going to be an elite linebacker in theory. I mean, he's supposed to be. So I think he'll get, and Kazir White, like, man, he's gonna, I don't know. He has potential. He's got a lot of upside, man. He's got like this weird talented hybrid kind of thing that he can do. See how they use him. But, I'm going to have a hard time defending anyone who's holding 4 linebackers. It's just like, it's so dicey to me, man. Like, it's literally, we looked at his team and everything. You're like, fucking kidding me? Fucking kidding. And then you're like, okay, yeah, he doesn't have linebackers. All right, fair enough. At least there's something. At least there's some holes here.
Yeah, for sure. I think he has a really solid safety room. He's got Peppers and Poyer. Is that how you pronounce that?
Poyer.
We're going to go with it. So I think he's going to get points there. He only has 40 people rostered with $7 and no, that's not he has $68 in cap. He has 5 guys on the taxi squad. I did point out that he has 2 young rookie taxi squad guys that I think actually could get clocked this year.
Yeah,
Possibly.
Aziz definitely has a chance to get snaps this year. He's probably the front runner of that lineup. And then
So this is probably why he only has 40 players, because honestly, 4 of these 5 guys might have a chance of getting clock. At least 3 of them. Two at
he's
well.
missing 5 people on the taxi squad. I'm telling you what.
Let him have it, Ben.
$68 on your damn roster. It's going to cost you nothing. Just cram in a couple guys, put them in there to sleep. Oh, nice and snuggy. Doesn't have to do much. Put them on the taxi squad, son. Jesus. Put these 5 guys on your damn roster and get 10 guys in your taxi squad. That's 45 plus 10. That's just good mathematics. Let's do it.
So he has a ton of draft capital next year, almost to a point where he has very few people coming off the off.
Oh,
the
that's
books.
nauseating. Really? God,
Yeah, and so I think he's going to have to move some people around in order to free up some spots, or he's going to have some high draft picks on his taxi squad next year. So that could get pretty interesting to see what he does there. And that's all I have for him. I really wasn't trying to rush through his team, but we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes here on the Dynasty podcast. Josh, how you doing, buddy? Do you need a water?
I've got some.
Ben, are you doing okay for time? I wanted to at least give Josh a chance to talk about his 3 breakout candidates. We can keep this very bulleted. We don't have to have a lot of back and forth, but just knowledge for the viewers and listeners out there. And we waited 2 weeks for it. I don't want to cut your time short, Josh. We just tend to carry on and ramble too much. So
I'm good.
Cool. Let's just fire through it in the next 20 minutes and then we can call it a day, boys.
Sounds good.
Josh, did you want to kick it off, being as you haven't talked for over 45 minutes?
Take it off that take it off that full screen, Corey.
Oh yeah. Thanks, buddy.
So we can see our beautiful faces.
Let's see. So impact players that aren't in the top 20, 25 of rankings. I just used Dynasty League Football and figured it up below 25. I've got Darnell Mooney as one of mine. I figured that would be one of your favorites there. I like him because last year, by week 2 or 3, I can't remember which one it was, he was already logging wide receiver 2 snaps. He was opposite of Robinson over there with Miller in the slot, I believe, or he was running as the wide receiver 3. He ended up with 61 receptions, 631 yards, and 4 touchdowns with Foles and Trubisky throwing to him. I feel like Andy Dalton is an upgrade over both of them, as well as Fields being an even further upgrade over Dalton. So I think that Darnell Mooney's future is bright. I don't have much of a prediction for him for the year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he logged 80 receptions, 800 yards, and 6-7 touchdowns.
I like it.
So that's my first one there.
Nice. Ben, do you want to do one, or do you want to keep firing them off, Josh?
Go ahead, Ben.
Let's go because I got a wide receiver too, and you have a wide receiver, right, Corey?
I got 2 wide receivers. So
okay, so I'll go with my wide receiver. I look at so we did what was the rankings we used, Corey? Pro.
I mean, I just basically what I was trying to accomplish here is just guys that are not in the top 24, kind of at their positional dynasty rankings, and kind of a little under the radar. I just feel like there's so many shows out there that just give you fucking entry level kind of analysis, and so I wanted to get into kind of those mid range guys that you think are going to have a better year than what their current rankings suggest.
Yeah, for sure. And I took all considerations of rookies out because we've talked about them up and down, and more importantly, nobody knows what they are because we haven't seen them play and how they're used. So I'm going to go with Michael Gallup because we're talking dynasty, okay? And Michael Gallup, I think, is probably the most talented guy that's going to have to move on from his team next year. So there's very slim chance, and I'd love to hear Jason's take on this because he's so in tune with the Cowboys, but I don't think there's a very high chance, unless he proves himself to be the best wide receiver on the team, that they would keep him next year. However, he's not that far away from the best wide receiver on his team. I think he is a real talent, and at worst, the number 2 on any other team in the NFL. outside of maybe 5 teams that have really good duos, right? So I think Michael Gallup, for what you can probably get now, if Dak has a good season, something serviceable this year, but you're probably going to be able to get him at a buy low majority of the situations, especially throughout the season if maybe he isn't performing. And I just think at his age and what he can possibly do in his next turnaround with his next team, he's kind of like, unlike Boyd, where he got in a crowded division, like he's similar, but I think actually Gallup is actually going to be way more talented moving forward because I think he's so young and he moved forward so fast. It's like just weird. The Cowboys got CeeDee Lamb and him. They both are really good. So I'm gonna say Michael Gallup at 49, where I saw him in most of the ranges as a dynasty prospect. He's probably something that may dip later if people just get sick of a couple low games from him, and I think you get him cheap, and I think he's a good spot.
I like it.
Especially if you're not playing for this year and you're kind of like rearranging your teams for future. So I think it's a good target.
It's hard to assess that. I mean, even Cedric Wilson in Dallas, like who I thought would perform pretty favorably last year, and in certain times, like there's so many weapons. Like it's hard to get excited about Gallup when he's in Dallas, but like as you said, like that dude is a freaking stud, and I think people overlook that. So, I'm going to quickly do Gabe Davis because it is what it is, but I've done so much analysis. I was hoping that Bauer was going to be on the show and kind of try to get it back and forth, but
you guys would have gone at it. It would have been great.
No preseason camps last year as a rookie. Just remember that. And he had one of the more productive rookie seasons out of anybody. I put that. No upgrades to the running back room. Team passed over 480 times last year and ran 3 or 4 wide receiver sets 93% of the time, and that was the highest in the league. I don't think that they're going to decrease that much this year. If anything, they're probably going to try to run the ball a little bit early, and then they're going to go right back to the well of letting Josh Allen decide games with his arm and his feet. And I think another year with him and Gabe Davis working together, I think is going to be magical. John Brown departure, I think he's replaced by Sanders. Brown had 40 receptions last year, about 700 yards. If I think it's a slight upgrade with Emmanuel Sanders, but I'm not sold on Emmanuel Sanders at 31 being anything other than a very solid pro for a Super Bowl contending team that they know they can plug in there and he's not going to fuck up shit. So if anybody thinks that Emmanuel Sanders is going to go in there and get 85 receptions this year, they're fucking lost their goddamn mind. Okay, that's just
it's so on the Gabriel Davis channel.
And he hasn't played more than 10, I think 10 or 11 games in the last 4 years. So I don't know. Good luck with that. And then I just put Beasley's a trending as a distraction, could move Sanders to the slot, which even then that opens up Gabe Davis more. So if Beasley doesn't get the dope, then they're going to move on from him, and that's okay by me too. So that's my quick analysis of Gabe Davis. I could talk for hours about that, but we don't need to do it. He's going to be a stud. He's going to be a stud. He's going to be a stud. Go ahead, Josh. You're up next.
Let's go with the $150 tight end Anthony Firkser.
Woo! Breakout.
So with Jonnu Smith leaving, that vacated a lot of targets. Corey Davis also vacated a lot of targets. 157 to be. Let me make sure my math is right. Yeah, to be exact. Julio obviously is going to get a huge portion of these. You figure he's going to get at least 120 targets probably. They're going to throw the ball a little bit more, maybe try to keep some miles off of Henry, maybe looking in the red zone, looking for a few passing options as opposed to just hammering it with Henry the whole time. I think that he's a sneaky chunk play guy. And also an easy red zone target when the defenders are looking at the 2 wide receivers and the running back. I felt like he was a solid second option for me for the year, especially whenever I saw Zach Ertz go for 140 something. You had some guys over 100 like Jared Cook, the Indiana kid guy, Doyle, and there was one more. But I don't know. I think that there's a real chance there for him to be a top 10 tight end this year. If not, even better.
I liked him a lot before the Jones signing. I think he was going to be kind of a peppered kind of target, but just the price tag, I think overall for me.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to have a solid year. I don't disagree with
I was
that.
happy to get the backup at $10. So that,
Yeah, Swain, right?
yeah.
Was that blocking tight end?
Yeah,
Ben.
yeah, he'll be a blocking tight end.
Ben, keep it firing here, buddy. We gotta wrap it up.
Okay, yeah, I went to linebackers, and I had a couple that I really wanted to talk about, but I couldn't talk about the disrespect the number 3 PFF graded middle linebacker in the league is getting, sitting at 30 fucking 9. What the fuck are these people thinking? Get off of Kendrick's dick, okay? Get off his dick. Number 1 in pass grade. He's number 3 overall in PFF. He's a goddamn beast and a tackle machine that gets over 100 fucking tackles every year. What else does anybody want? What else do you want? So we can suck Bobby Wagner's dick. We can suck Fred Warner's dick, who are 1 and 2. We're going to say 39 for fucking Kendricks. Get the fuck out of here. What's the fucking site we're referencing? I wanted to fucking write him an email and act like a Karen. I was so mad about it. I wanted a manager.
Fantasy pros,
Good
man.
God.
Those guys are
Fantasy pros. What the fuck are you doing? 39th, putting my boy Kendricks 39th in linebacker rankings. Okay, so that's all I'll say about that. That was quick.
He's a stud. No, I mean, I moved on from him in this league, I believe, just because I think I only had him for one more year. But I think he is going to have a solid year for sure. I've seen him much higher rank than that, though, Ben, in other dynasty rankings. I've seen him as high as like 15 or 13 or something like that. But
I know, man. You gave me the rankings. I looked at it and almost fucking puked, so I had to say something.
39 seems outrageous.
He's
I wonder,
39 ranked at the linebacker position. I mean, it was
interesting. Josh, can you
pretty
look that up
egregious.
on Fantasy Pros and see what they have him as? I want to make sure
He
that we're
doesn't
not
believe me.
providing inaccurate information. And I think
Dynasty,
there's
right? Not this year.
It's Dynasty, yeah. And I think that could be it. Yeah, I don't know.
I think they just think the Vikings will probably move on from him this year. But like, dude, a guy like that, you don't stop being a tackle machine. Ask all the other guys who are middle linebackers that are tackling machines.
I'm gonna do my 2 in a row here real quick. Russell Gage is my second player breakout candidate. I think he's the clear wide receiver 2 in a pass first offense. Christian Blank and some young developmental players after him at the wide receiver depth position. That's not scary. They had 622 pass attempts in 2020. For reference, the Bills had 480. They threw the shit out of the ball last year, and they only signed Mike Davis this year. I don't think that's really going to change too much. Although they do have a different offensive coordinator in there that likes to run the football, so we'll see how long that lasts. Gage himself had 102 targets in 2020. He has played in all but one game in the last 3 seasons, so he's pretty durable. I think there's going to be a huge up in targets, specifically because I think he's still the third option if they want to do it correctly with Ridley and Pitts, kind of demanding double teams. He's going to be able to leverage single coverage, and I think he's just going to be a target PPR, monster. Again, he already had 103 targets. They already had 103 targets last year to tight end. So even if they do throw the ball to Pitts a shitload with Hayden Hurst still being there, I just think he has, the potential to finish in the top 24 range this year. And I think he's ranked right next to my boy Gabe Davis in the dynasty future. So that there are not a lot of people that are super high on him long term. But we'll see. Frank Darby's also there, so maybe that's more of a long-term option. But I think people are sleeping on Russell Gage, and I think he could be a league winner. And I think there's someone that owns him for $12 in this league, so that could be a huge return on investment. And the only other person that I was going to talk about was Clowney, who I already kind of mentioned earlier. I just think he's a rare talent, and if he returns to health, I think he's well going to perform that 120 point range that he performed at last year, and he could be a stud and a wrecker on the other side of Garrett. So I'm not going to talk too much about him, but I'd keep your eye on him in other leagues. That's it. And then I think, Ben, you had one more, and Josh, you had one more.
Hold on,
Kendricks
Josh.
is 39.
Is he really?
29.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
he's right there behind Alex
Disrespect.
Singleton, so right where he should be.
That's crazy.
Yes. That's all right, my Packer, bro. That's all
Oh,
right.
he-
I'll take it.
He is a stud,
I'll take
man.
it.
I don't know, maybe because of age. I don't know. He's
I
not
think they
30 now.
just-
Age could be it.
He's 29.
Man.
Josh, who do you have as your
Bobby
third and
Wagner.
final?
Well, I tossed it around between a linebacker and a running back here, so I went ahead and went with the running back. They were both Packers. AJ Dillon, definitely a homer pick. He's a guy. He's a beast. He's like Derrick Henry reincarnated without the usage worries. I look for him to be a very quick study, to be a 1B to Aaron Jones's 1A. Jamal Williams was solid the last 4 years. He
Jamal
averaged,
Williams don't have those quads, though. He don't have those
No,
quads.
Those are some
No,
massive
he does
quads
not.
for sure.
but Jamal Williams can really dance. So, you got to really weigh those two things, So, anyways, but his 4-year average, Jamal Williams is 125 rushes for just under 500 yards. So, right at 4 yards per carry, which is pretty solid, especially playing as the second fiddle to Aaron Jones. AJ Dillon last year, only on 46 carries, averaged 5.25 yards per carry. So let's just say, this is hypothetical nonsense for the most part. But with the vacated carries from Jamal Williams, let's say he picks up, I don't know, a half of them. So that's 60 extra carries. So that puts him over 100 carries. With his 5.25 yards per carry, that gets to be an astronomical number on those carries. So realistically, let's say he does 4.5 yards per carry. You're looking at somewhere between 600 and 625 yards probably. Then being if he's a goal line back, he's going to get 5 or 6 touchdowns. If Rodgers is pumping, he'll get some receptions. So he's in line to have a very, very solid year. He'll definitely outperform the rankings that he's getting right now, I feel.
I think he'll really outperform too as a secondary back if he gets the full load. I think he can handle a lot better probably than Williams can. And I think if they have to lean on him, if Aaron Jones gets hurt, I think you're right. Dylan's going to be able to tote the rock a lot.
With
Sure.
with those thighs, I can only imagine the full load that guy can create. Let's just be honest. Anyway, that's awesome. I also heard he was kind of being getting thrown the ball a little bit more in the third down role, which is surprising because he hasn't really done that through his college career.
I think they have to do it because in theory, if Jones gets hurt, I don't think they want to have to lean on these other guys. I think the reason that they were okay with letting Williams walk is because they get a power game as a combo, but I think they also want I think they want Dillon to be able to come in and do the same load that Jones is doing in case he gets injured. So that's why I feel like they're putting more priority in that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think again,
Kylan Hill-
I think I agree, man. I think he's gonna be a sick handcuff. You got guys like Madison and some of these handcuffs that just come in and it's just all right, give them they won't get the previous load, but they can get some of the passing game work. They probably tote 90% of the workload that the other guy got. You don't get that a lot of times when somebody gets hurt. So I
100%.
You do also have to look for Kylan Hill to possibly become part of the committee and get his 50 to 60 rushing attempts and 20 receptions as well. So that could eat into both of their workload as well.
Nice. All right, Ben, take us home, buddy, with your third and final.
All right. Well, you know what? I had to do somebody on my own roster for this one, a man that I've talked about plenty, and it's fucking Josh Sweat. All right. We got Josh Sweat, number 33. And I think that's goddamn disrespectful. You know why? Because this man is 24 fucking years old and he's already making quarterbacks wish they never were born. All right. And when he has a starting role, and Roman, I hope you're listening, he's going to make quarterbacks wish they were never even conceived. Okay. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. Josh Sweat is probably the best up and coming pass rusher in the NFL, and he's about to face fuck the league. Watch out.
Face fuck the lead. You heard it here first. Excellent.
Just like
analysis.
Jamin Davis. You know I mean it. You know what I mean? When I say Jamin Davis and Josh Sweat are the only guys I've said so far that are going to face fuck the league, you can fucking book it.
I love it. You guys, I really like that segment. I think we need to do more of that, those short kind of, little call outs. I think, to be honest with you, that's what makes fantasy football fun is calling your shots a little bit. And so we need to do more of that. Josh, I just want to personally thank you, buddy. It's been a nightmare getting you on. We should have waited this long, but you were an absolute pro today, bud. Really, really clear, really great communicator. Excellent use of statistics as opposed to just blah, 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 gut, shit like
Oh, you mean like me?
Horse. So thank you for bringing a caliber of expert. I'm just kidding. We love you, Georgia. Thanks for bringing, that caliber of analysis to us. We know you put the work in and we really appreciate it. That's all we got, I think.
Roman's going to be jealous he missed this one. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he is.
Stuff, Josh.
We'll have to get Roman back on with you at another time. I know he wanted to be here, but that dude is seriously crawled up in a little ball, still crying about the loss from the old French.
He's busy. He's busy too.
He's a busy dude. He 100% is. We love him and we miss him though. Okay.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Tell your girlfriend that you're dropping down to 20 leagues next year. Okay, it's ordered by the Dynasty podcast team.
Oh,
we got to get you under control. Get you
on
an extra date, one night a week. You know what I mean? We like
tough.
to keep it harmonious here at the Dynasty podcast. All right, we work on all aspects of our life. I'm also going to tease
25. Go to 30.
I'm going to tease a midweek drop for the Better Ask Sal segment. I got it all written up, and I'll be dropping that in a separate segment. To keep you guys thirsty-less throughout the week. And that's it. Is that a word, thirsty-less? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
All right, making up our own words on the podcast as per usual. We'll talk to you guys soon, and we're out.